everyone's attention, I will call the regularly scheduled Zoning and Plating Board of Review to order for the month of March 2024. Heidi, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Alvin Keimer. Present. Christine Bosher. Here. Keith Kyle. Here. Ellen Cornell. Here. Christopher Allman.
Here.
Anthony Brunetti.
Here.
James Manning.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a full board present.
Well, that's fantastic. Doesn't always happen. This evening, I'm going to move the agenda around a little bit. We'll take care of administrative matters, approval of minutes at the end of the meeting. We've got one appeal this evening with Rinaldi. Mr. Sadette, I did promise you number one on the agenda, but we have a very simple TMG Management Services. Mr. Martucci, it's a request for an extension of time. Okay. So we'll, good evening, gentlemen.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Jeff Caffrey, law firm of Resnick and Caffrey, 300 Centerville Road in Warwick. Here on behalf of TMG Management Services, Inc. With me is TJ Martucci, one of the principals. We're here tonight seeking an extension of a special use permit that was granted to us in April of 2022. Just a little history for the board in the event that you're not familiar with this project. Oh, you want to hear me? In the event you're not familiar with this project, it was originally approved in June of 2021. The original plan for the premise upon us being able to put a basement on the property that would allow for the mechanicals and for some dry storage. Upon removing the building, raising the building, we realized that it had an extremely high water table and that we would no longer be able to utilize any subsurface area. So in April of 22, we were back in front of the board seeking revised building plan approval, which slightly enlarged the building footprint and an expansion of the originally approved deck. At that hearing, our petition was granted, however, with the caveat that we would have to reduce the capacity of the building from the previously agreed upon 304 people down to 280 people. And that's in direct correlation to what the fire marshal had approved, which was 333 people. In addition to the reduction of the capacity of the building, the board also granted its approval based upon the reduction of the outside dining that we had proposed, outside, not dining, but outside deck that we had proposed. We had submitted a proposal of 12 by 42, and the board deemed to be excessive in that they would only grant 12 by 17. Since the date of that approval, the applicant has been kind of wrestling with some proposed development plans. Needless to say, with the extreme cost of development and some of the curveballs that have been thrown to him, it's been a little bit more problematic for us to move forward. So at this point in time, we're looking for an extension for an additional year so that we can evaluate what we've been approved for, what we may need to do in the future, and then perhaps even look at some yield plans to see what else we can do on the site in the event that we're not able to go forward with the proposed restaurant and entertainment venue. I know that it's always been this board's position that they want a restaurant there, but obviously with capacity limitations and cost factors, these are all things that we need to take into consideration. So if you have any questions for myself or Mr. Martucci, we're happy to answer them.
Do any of the board members have any questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carey. Chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to extend the time frame for an additional year.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Good luck, gentlemen. You're welcome. All right, as promised, Mr. Sadette, you have the floor.
Great. I thought
We're going to do Rinaldi after we take the two in We're going to do the appeal after the two in Anawan, so.
Great, then we're earlier than expected, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes? No? What do you got, like a director's? Well, we should. Do you want to? Of the other three appeals? Oh, we can do that while they're working on that. Okay. So there are actually 4 appeals on the agenda this evening. We're only going to hear the first one, which is Rinaldi. So Chair would entertain a motion. Steve, are we going to a date certain? Yeah, for April, whatever the next zoning in April. All 3 on April? Okay, so I'm looking for individual motions, first being Brasky.
Aye.
In regards to McDavitt, what is the board's pleasure? Chair's looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, same, make a motion to move McDavitt to a date certain of 4/18.
Second that?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. And finally, Rahani.
Mr. Chairman, again, move Rahani to a date certain of 4/18.
I'd second that. I will second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Any other housekeeping, Steve, that we need to do? Stanton, okay, if anyone is here for Stanton this evening, that has been withdrawn, correct? Okay, so that will no longer be heard. And Capstone has also been withdrawn? Okay, so if you're here for either one of those hearings, you don't have to stay. All right? They will not be heard. All right. Mr. Sadette, now we're ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that you're taking this application at the beginning of your agenda. As the board may know, Attorney Stephen Surdett on behalf of the applicant, Jim and Ann O'Neill, and as well as my colleague, Mr. Indeglia, who is unfortunately unable to be here tonight due to a prior commitment and wishes he could be here. We are here regarding a property located in Anawan Cliffs. I'll wait for it to be posted up on your screen. And the theme of my application here tonight is change is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be bad, and it doesn't have to be the enemy. And the reason for that is, as many of you know, as longtime residents and members of the Narragansett community, Anawan Cliffs started off, and to some extent is still a seaside community. And when my client first became an owner in a property living in Anawan Cliffs back in the early 70s, the makeup of the community was quite different, although the house was very similar that we're here today to talk about. It started off as a modest seasonal and year-round community, and now has grown to one of the premier neighborhoods and communities in southern Rhode Island, if not southern New England, with large luxury homes that are designed to high-end architectural standards with many floors of living space. Another that have grown up and come into their own. This property has a unique history because, as I said, it's been owned by the same family and the same couple since the early 70s. The property, what the applicant is requesting here tonight is to install a small addition onto the side of the property to allow them to utilize the property and to enjoy the property to its fullest extent as the needs of the family change and as their hopes, goals, desires, and dreams change. What we are proposing here today and requesting before the board here today is a 10-foot, and at its most, it's 10 feet. It actually reduces down to about 3.8 feet at the front of the proposed structure, of a side yard setback relief from a 35-foot side yard setback. And I have two witnesses here today to start to assist me in my application, our engineer, our site engineer, who I'll present first, as well as one of the three daughters of the property owner here who's to represent them. As the board knows, this matter has been continued a few times. The applicants wish they could be here, but due to some personal restrictions, they're unable to be here tonight, and instead sent their daughter in their stead. I will point out to you that this is it's a unique piece of property, and on its face, it appears quite large and that there's a lot of space, but that is deceiving. There are a number of limitations, and my colleague will go over them in great detail, but the key ones to keep in mind are that line you see there, the 200-foot coastal jurisdiction line, are the front setback line, the septic and garden shed areas on the other side of the property, and the existing driveway and turning areas within the driveway area. And I will ask my colleague to highlight those things because they represent significant limitations on what we can do on the property and the usability of the property. That coastal setback, and most specifically, and the location of the existing septic and the existing gardening areas are very impactful on this. And with that said, I would take the opportunity to call my witness and ask that he be sworn in. Mm-hmm. And actually, while you're doing that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I have some packets that I'll come back to if I can pass them out, and I'd ask that they be marked as Applicant's Exhibit 1, if that's okay.
Certainly. Mr. Freeman, could you raise your right hand and be sworn, please?
I do. Patrick Freeman, F-R-E-E-M-A-N. Thank you. Those are mine. Oh, that's yours? Thank you very much. My name's Patrick Freeman. I'm with American Engineering. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island.
That was going to be my next question, Steve. Yeah. Mr. Sedette, would you like Mr. Freeman's certified as a...
Yes, I believe Mr. Freeman's testified before this board a number of
has.
times prior, and I'd ask that he be certified as an expert witness.
Okay. For the purposes of this public hearing, Mr. Freeman will be recognized as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm going to start by taking you all through the site plan. The site is located at 155 Cliff Drive and is known as Assessor's Plat N-J Lot 18. The parcel consists of approximately 77,493 square feet of land and is zoned R40. The property is abutted to the west by Cliff Drive, to the north by Anawan Drive, to the east by Narragansett Bay, and to the south by another residential property. The site's currently developed with an existing dwelling, as well as an on-site wastewater treatment system. There's an existing crushed stone driveway, which provides access to the site. We're proposing to construct a 26 by 26 square foot garage along with a 148 square foot covered walkway. We're requesting relief from the side setback of 25 feet where 35 feet is required. The purpose of siting the garage in the setback is to continue the use of the driveway, the existing crushed stone driveway, and provide adequate space for a vehicle to back out of the garage and give it enough room to turn so that it can exit onto Cliff Drive. Typically speaking, a vehicle needs to back out approximately 18 feet out of a parking space, out of a garage before it can start to turn its wheels. Otherwise, it'll hit the garage. We've got 38 feet from the front of the garage to the existing deck here, so that gives us about 20 feet once the vehicle's out of the garage to start making a turn. A typical parking space in, say a supermarket, you have an 9 by 18 parking space and then a 24-foot aisle, so that's 4 foot less. 24-foot aisle, so that's 4 feet less than your standard that you would have room in a standard parking space. We did attempt to site the garage in an area where we would not need relief. If you do pull that garage inside the side setback while also holding the front, it slides the garage south and east, moving it much closer to the existing garage and doesn't allow a vehicle to fully pull out. It would require a multi-point turn in order to get a vehicle out. The other side effect of that would be a driver would be tempted to back all the way out the driveway and back onto Cliff Drive, creating a somewhat unsafe situation. A couple other key notes on the plan. We're proposing a rain garden, which captures the water quality volume for the proposed impervious areas, as well as mitigates the peak runoff rate and volume from the 25-year storm per the town of Narragansett regulations. That concludes my presentation, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions, Mr. Freeman?
With respect to the second story of the garage, what's the intended use of that space?
Storage,
Just storage?
that's correct.
And you understand that it can't be used as a bedroom?
I do understand that. Yep.
Yes, and we would be happy with a condition that would limit it to the 3 bedrooms based off the existing septic system, and that area can't be used for living space.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Freeman, do you happen to know what's the overall height of the proposed garage?
I'm going to defer to Stephen. I believe you said.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your
The
question.
overall height
I
of
believe
the...
it's 22 feet.
Okay. Actually, I'm looking at a plan that says 23 and 23-1.
23 when I stand corrected, thank you.
Okay. So, Wayne, you're considering this substantially attached to the dwelling, correct?
That's correct, and that would conform to the maximum of 35 feet, which would be associated with the house. So it would be in compliance.
So if the O'Neills wanted to, they could go to 35 feet in height.
They could.
Okay, no, they're keeping it at 23. Okay, 23-1 and a quarter to be exact. So, okay. Just wanted to get that on the record. And Mr. Freeman, can you describe the topography as you approach this house in Anawan?
Absolutely. The site generally slopes from west to east, so it all flows down towards the bay.
But how about the road itself when you're driving towards this?
Generally slopes down, and you're looking down at the site.
Would you consider that, did you have any idea what the height difference is from house to house?
I haven't looked at that.
You haven't, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I may address that in a little while. In your packet, you'll see that there are letters of support from the neighbors directly, I would say, above or on the other side of Cliff Drive.
I've seen that, Mr. Stitt, yes, thank you.
And then there's an additional one, I think, I'm not sure if you've seen before, where they believe they'll actually look out over the top of this and that it will have little to no impact on the viewscapes and the history of it. And that's one of the things, in speaking to Mr. O'Neill, having been a longtime resident of Anawan Cliffs, he has taken great pains to not go up in height in the history, to preserve the nature of the Anawan Cliffs, the history of it, and to be a good neighbor. And that's what he wants to continue to do and feels he's done in putting forth this application.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ellen?
I'm not sure I understand the citing, some of the citing things, so maybe you could just explain it to me. Can you zoom in on the site? So the problem where you have really is if you're facing the new proposed garage, you have on the right-hand side is where the relief is necessary. The right-hand back side is where you need. Is there something, remind me or tell me again, if you've already said that in your presentation, but is there any reason why you couldn't move that a little bit closer to the driveway and a little bit to the left, and it would either reduce or eliminate your need for relief there?
So if we were to slide that building to the left, we're right up directly against the front setback. So we would need front setback.
So that's the setback?
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
The
okay.
front setback, we
Okay.
are pinched right there along the front setback for that garage.
And even if you moved it forward a little bit,
And
that
if-
would also, okay, so you'd need relief somewhere.
Correct.
And additionally, if we move it forward, we lose the benefit of that slope down towards the water, which is something that, and trying to preserve the existing viewscape to the most extent possible.
And then just one more question, the need for the 26 by 26 rather than something smaller?
The idea is to be able to put the vehicles in there and to be able to walk around them as we
And
start.
is that standard, 26 by 26 is standard for
defer to
2
my-
vehicles?
That is, yes.
Any further questions? Yes, Christine?
So, is it possible, was it thought of to?
Christine, speaking to you.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Microphone, please.
Is that better?
I don't know. I haven't heard you speak yet.
Is that better?
That's better, thank you.
Was it considered to attach it? Meaning, instead of having an open porch attaching it, just attaching it to I believe it's a one-car garage that's there now, a single level? And it seemed like you could kind of inch it forward. Maybe it's a permeable driveway. Do you have to keep the driveway the same? It seems like you're trying to make this work with that driveway, but does it have to, those are, I guess, 2 questions.
Okay.
Can it be attached? Wasn't considered to be attached versus just attaching it with a porch? And do you have to keep the driveway the same?
So we don't necessarily have to keep the driveway the same. That I can say. The attempting to put that garage in this location, you'd still need side setback relief. If you were to just tack it on to the side of this building, the 26 would still come over this corner here. And you would need to reconfigure the driveway to make that work. I don't believe, and that goes again to, if you were to slide this forward and over this way, if you were to say try to sneak it into this location, you start really constricting the ability to pull a vehicle out into this corner.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Oh,
So
all right.
why wouldn't you just put the garage doors facing Cliff versus trying to get the garage doors to face the driveway? So just put it inside the setback and just, why are you trying to make all that congestion there?
Anawan Drive is a pedestrian walkway. You cannot actually drive down it, so we can't come in from that side.
The Cliff.
Okay, so you would want, I guess I don't understand your question, I'm sorry.
So it seems like the trick is trying to get in and out of that garage with the garage doors being on the side that you have them right now. So what if you were to put them westward instead of southward?
On the front,
Yeah.
I believe there's a significant amount of landscaping, and as we start to get closer to corners, and there's a big three-way intersection there, starts to create safety issues where we try to keep driveways away from the edges of corners and turning radiuses. So all of those things were taken into account to try to locate this in the best place possible. As we slide down farther too, we're trying to stay out of as many sightlines as possible. And there's a house on the other side of Anawan Drive. It's set far back, but as we're able to stay up close towards that front setback, we are trying to preserve as much of a view corridor down for those folks as well. I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry if it doesn't.
No, that's fine.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you.
We'll bring you back, Patrick, don't worry. I'm sure we'll find something else for you to say. With that said, I'd like to introduce Ms. Kelsey. I know her as Kelsey O'Neill, but I know you have a different last name now. So she will not be sworn as an expert witness, but as a representative of the family.
Okay.
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
Kelsey O'Neill Dunville, Dumville. Thank you. So if I might, I'm here to speak on behalf of my parents and my family. They could not be here tonight, but are texting me furiously. So if I could quickly respond to the last question in part. You may have seen the previous design was up there, and I'll speak to this a bit, but they've put a lot of effort into making this an aesthetically pleasing garage building that would be attached to the house. So the idea to connect it to the side of that home, I think is difficult to understand without having that angle of the home, but it would be not aesthetically pleasing. And so this is what they are hoping to achieve here, is this type of view. And I think Steve and Patrick also spoke to the fact that it would still require some sort of setback. So if that's helpful, there's a lot of aesthetics that we're trying to accommodate here in terms of keeping with the neighborhood. So I'd like to read a statement from my mom, if that's okay, and then a short from myself. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen, because this is a bit emotional for my family, so thank you for the moment. So from my mom, Annie O'Neill. My husband Jim and I reside at 155 Cliff Drive. We are seeking setback relief of 10 feet from the requisite 35 for construction of a garage. The 10-foot relief saw concerns a 35-foot setback, which runs north to south, from a walking right-of-way designed only for Anawan residents to access the coast from Anawan Drive. The right-of-way is essentially a 50-foot wide gated path. 20 feet of the gated path is comprised of paved material, which is bordered by 15 feet of grass on the north and south sides. The 10 feet of relief sought will have absolutely no impact whatsoever on the gated path. I can say this with confidence because the 15 feet of grass is not traversed and would remain as undisturbed if you grant our variance as it remains now. By way of background, allow me to share our family's love for Narragansett and the reasons which trigger our request for relief. Jim's family moved to Anawan in 1959. They were the first year-round residents of Anawan. In those days, there were 23 grandchildren, my cousins. Obviously, there wasn't room for all of them to gather for overnights, but Jim's mom solved that problem by buying a little cottage on Gatsby Road and Knowles Way for the tidy sum of $3,500. Or thereabouts. Unfortunately, that opportunity is not available to our family today. Family is the core of society. We are simply seeking the opportunity to provide our grandkids, who will shortly be 5 in number, a loft to play in, as well as a garage to house their toys, boats, and cars. Our 3 girls all grew up in Narragansett and were an ever-present fixture in the community, whether it was while they were on the athletic field or making sandwiches at Pickpockets, now Gansett Wraps, where I stopped on my way here. Due to job responsibilities, our daughters and their husbands and families live out of state. However, they remain a vital part of our household as they return as often as possible, particularly in the summer. Our family's love for Narragansett is not new to us. Jim's grandfather, a Providence firefighter, built his first cottage in Point Judith in the 1930s. Jim was a lifeguard at the town beach for years while tending bar at night at the old Sweet Meadows Inn, now Washington Trust Bank. I share his love for Anawan and our town. I was raised 5 miles up the road at Plum Beach and remained an active member of the Narragansett community. I'm sorry. This is also submitted for, if that's helpful. Okay, sorry. Apologies. I was raised 5 miles up the road at Plum Beach and remained an active member of the Narragansett community while raising our 3 daughters. Anawan Cliffs Association objects to our request for a 10-foot relief from the requisite 35-foot setback. This relies on a bald assertion and vague reasoning in support of their objection. Mr. Massey states that the board has historically objected to all variance requests from neighbors. There is no evidence offered nor available that supports their position. In fact, there is behavior by members of the association that well demonstrates that they have acted contrary to the philosophy they rely upon, being dedicated to open space and established view corridors. Mr. Massey, the author of the association's objection, indicates that their position arises from the association's desire to maintain harmony and good relations among neighbors and to preserve the unique character of Anawan Cliffs. Mr. Massey also states that the design of the community was planned to enhance open space and provide sufficient building envelope for each homeowner. As some of the older residents residing in Anawan, we can tell you, and the history of variances applied to this board demonstrates, that the Anawan HOA's board's position is this: if they object to every variance, regardless of the reason, and consistently state that they seek to preserve the Anawan Cliff character, they avoid claims of favoritism, they avoid personal feelings and emotions from causing harm to the community, and they avoid controversy. The board is analogous to Switzerland and essentially leaves the decision to the discretion of the zoning board, where such decisions ought to rest. Our proposal is in keeping with the community. It is permitted use on a residential lot. It is not a danger to the health or welfare of the community. It takes into significant consideration the coastal features. The structure is placed so as to avoid impacting views, light, and maintain continuity of our home. In keeping with our commitment to preserve that unique character, please note that the structure that we propose is to build a 23 as opposed to the permitted height of 35 feet. We are dedicated environmentalists and have worked for the last 65 years to preserve the unique character of Anawan Cliffs. We have and will remain vigilant in our efforts to preserve view corridors for all to enjoy. Thank you. And if I might, I have a brief statement, briefer than that, from myself and my sisters. So this is, in fact, my parents' home, but it is and will forever be mine and my sister's home. We call it the Rock because it is a stable place for our family to gather, provides strength in times of turmoil, and never wavers. I went through the Narragansett public school system, and my best friends in life are those from my childhood. That's how I know Steve. His sister is my best friend. All of them remember this home as a place of laying in the grass doing homework, gathering for soccer and swim team dinners, swimming at the beach, rolling down the hill in the front lawn, and exploring the gardens. Our goal is to provide space for my children, nieces, and nephews to make more of those lasting memories, a space for their toys, bikes, and childhood noise, separate from my parents, while we gather at our home, which we do often. What you won't see in any document is the painstaking effort my parents put into the design to keep the character of our home, to limit any disturbance to neighbors during construction, and to keep open view corridors. We have had countless family discussions about this project over the last several years to get to this point. The property that abuts our home is simply a path to Anawan Beach. Some call that beach O'Neill's Beach because of the time and effort that my parents, particularly my dad, put into keeping it free of seaweed and rocks with his hands and a shovel for the last 60 years. A welcoming place for the whole neighborhood, as is our home. Always an open door with neighbors stopping in, taking fresh vegetables from my mom's garden, cutting daffodils or hydrangeas, and bringing them home. That is the character of Anawan. This building coming closer to the path of the beach will impact absolutely no one. Very few people use that beach, and those who do often drive their cars down and quickly breeze past our home. We feel that the proposed option is the one that is most beneficial to the neighborhood as well as ourselves. My parents and I have lost sleep over this opposition, not because of the structure, but because of the effort put into it. And the fact that over the last decade, my parents have suffered through construction on every side of them, abutting their home, yet continue to welcome new neighbors in and have developed what we hope with those neighbors to be lasting friendships. I would encourage you to look at any photos over the years of our neighborhood and see the change that has occurred almost everywhere except for their home. Suggesting that raising old homes to build new ones, immeasurably larger homes, that preserves the character of Anawan in the neighborhood, and that this structure would not, is simply false. Our family values this community and this town, and my hope, my sister's hope, is to give our children a space to spend time and family and build lasting memories in a place that we have called home for 60 plus years. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you, Kelsey. Are there any questions? Yes.
I just want to clarify something. Did I hear Stephen say that the upstairs of the garage is going to be used for storage, but you said a loft for the kids?
I called it a loft for the kids. I think storage of toys and maybe a place for them to be separate from my parents making some noise. It will not be a bedroom space. There will be no bath. It will simply be an open space that kids may run around in, correct?
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
So building off of what Kelsey said, I wanted to go through some of the letters that you've received from abutters against this matter and in favor of this matter. And what I wanted to start off by doing is maybe pointing out some of the concerns I have with the letters not in favor of this project. And one of the key elements that seems to be running through those is that there is, quote, no hardship on this site, and that it is a very large site, and that there is lots of room to locate a structure. And I think Kelsey, Mr. Friedman delineated and showed that this, while being a large lot, is a very constricted lot, both based on the location of the existing property or existing home, the coastal setbacks, and the other existing structures that are on the home. And keeping those constrictions in place, and as well as trying to find a way to fit this addition into the community and have it be considered not in line with, as your comprehensive plan requires, the overall flow of the community and the neighborhood. The applicant and myself believe that its location is the best location for it, and that it will allow the applicant to utilize the property in the least in the best way possible, and that the not granting of this will be more than a mere inconvenience to them. It'll impact their ability to reasonably use and enjoy their property. I would also point out to you, Mr. Luca, if you could do a zoom out to maybe a 200-foot view or a 300 scale foot view of the overall neighborhood.
I don't have that, sorry.
Okay. Well, as you zoom out and look at like an overflight of the community, what you'll notice, and that's more than sufficient, is that the letters of support come from the folks immediately adjacent to this property, or immediately around this property. The parcel between the two roadways has written a letter of support. There is a letter of support from that parcel immediately adjacent to it as well. And then there's a letter of support from where you see NJ1, who have also written a letter of support in support of this proposed application. They are potentially the abutters who this might impact the most. And in those letters, it even goes so far as to say that the O'Neills went over, everybody stood out on the decks, everybody stood in these abutters' houses as the project was being developed and as the project was being constructed, and asked for input and worked with those folks so that this proposed structure would not impact them or would impact them in the most minimal way possible. So this is not an application that has been taken lightly. This is not an application that has not had a lot of thought. In fact, it's had an extreme amount of thought. The property owners have gone and found a way to propose this application, which, as this board knows, with the support of their surrounding neighbors and the neighbors that look over and across their property to the beauty that is Narragansett Bay. Now, as the board knows and has been told by your legal counsel, there is no right to a view easement in Rhode Island. Even that didn't stop the applicants from going and speaking to their neighbors. They had no legal obligation to, but instead of forcing something, they chose to go work with their community and work with their neighbors. Conversely, the letters in objection to this come from my estimation, folks well outside of the 200-foot abutter zone. They're from folks that are on the extreme ends of the community. They do not appear to be immediately impacted based upon the location of their properties. And I may be proven wrong by that, but I cannot see what that immediate impact is. And I would further to go through some of the legal niceties of this. The hardships here, the setbacks, were not created by my client. They've been in place since the lot was created. They've been put in place by regulatory agencies like CRMC that didn't exist when my client bought this property and for the duration of the time that they've owned it. Which is rather unique in this community where most of the properties have been bought and sold and rebuilt, whereas this one remains owned by the original family and very much original. And thus, without being granted this, the owner will just not be able to utilize this property in the best way possible. They won't be able to reasonably use and enjoy the property to its fullest. And we believe the request is quite frankly a modest request based upon the size of properties in the community, based upon other homes in and around the community. And as Kelsey very eloquently said, the association's effectively blanket prohibition or blanket objection to all variance or all zoning requests put forth before you is not an objection based on the merits of the application or on the legal niceties that this board has to meet and require or evidentiarily address. It is a concept, and I applaud their concept of trying to be Switzerland, but that's not this board's job. So I believe in your packets you have a project summary and a proposed motion that was put forth by my office and Mr. Indeglia's office. And we believe that based upon what we put forth here today, and I'd like an opportunity to respond to the abutters, that we've met your statutory criteria, that the application before you is the least amount of relief necessary for the applicant to reasonably use and enjoy their property, and the non-granting of it will amount to more than a mere inconvenience to the family. And with that said, I'll happily listen, unless the board has any questions of me at this time.
Are there any questions of Mr. Shadet?
Mr. Serta, I just wanted to point out, I just noticed that the exhibit that you gave us, applicants number one, has a project summary dated December 7th, 2023. I think the one that we're working off is December 14th. And the only reason that I point that out is I noticed that in the December 7th project summary, there's reference to a 3-bedroom OWTS.
That's the existing septic system.
In the December 14th project summary, it's referenced as 4-bedroom OWTS.
I believe that's a typo. There's only,
So it's a 4? The 4 is correct.
There are 3 bedrooms in the house. There was an additional bathroom that was put in 2 years ago. And so on the front lawn, that was the septic there. There is a septic on the front and there is a septic on the side, which was another part of the trouble with moving anywhere.
Okay.
So
So
I
it's
believe
4.
the 14th, December 14th
Right,
is, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Do you know where it is? So somewhere right around here. I'm sorry, right there is one.
and then there's a
And
large,
then there's cover there.
the 24-inch cover right down there. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Almond, if I may. The confusion with that is, the one that they submitted was from my letter to the chairman of the planning board, and at the time, they had submitted the OWTS for the previously existing 3-bedroom, and we didn't have the newest one, but in contact with DM, we were given the 4-bedroom. So they currently have an approved 4-bedroom.
Okay, great, thank you.
But again, we are open to the limitation. We're not looking to make it anything in this proposed structure a new bedroom.
Okay.
By any means.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Sadett. At this time, I'd ask if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this proposal.
That's okay, you don't have to speak. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, there are none beyond the letters in your packet.
Okay. Is there anyone who is opposed to this who would like to speak? Mr. Liberati, yes, sir.
First, let me thank the board for giving me the consideration that you did in continuing this matter, because
You're
I
welcome.
wasn't here the last time. I represent Anawan Cliffs Association in opposing this application. The association owns and maintains all of the roads within Anawan Cliffs development.
Mr. Liberati, could you just let the board know who you are?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the
That'd
people.
that'd be good.
Just identify yourself,
Yeah.
please, sir.
Mark Liberati, attorney, offices in 57 Narragansett Avenue, Jamestown, Rhode Island, and represent Anawan Cliffs Association.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay. Anawan does own and maintain all of the roads within Anawan Cliffs development. In addition to maintaining the roads, the association owns 3 lots within the development, one of which lies directly to the north of this project across Anawan Drive. It's known as Plat NJ Lot 61. Lot 61 serves as the open space used extensively by the Anawan community, as it serves as the community beach and picnic area. Anawan is a private community that was established in the 40s. The privatization of the roads was confirmed via a revocation of the offer to dedicate, which I can supply the board with a copy of in a minute. The association works hard to raise funds to properly manage the community, including spending considerable amount of money rebuilding the roads over the last decade. When Anawan was established in the 40s, the community was governed by restrictions which provided setbacks. I reference these setbacks as Anawan has always been a community that has valued open space. The community was developed on what had been farmland, and the design of the community was intentional to maintain open spacing between each of the 54 lots in the development. Neighbors will testify tonight to the way in which property owners adhered to the setback restrictions. As an example, Tom Drury, who has a pending zoning board matter, referenced this exact point during his presentation to the board on March 7th, in which he acknowledged that the optimal location of his proposed structure would have impinged on the front and side setbacks, and he proactively avoided situating his proposed structure in a way because he wanted to be sensitive to his neighbors and understood the objectives of the community to maintain property setbacks. As you know, the zoning code has been amended as of 1/1/24. This application was filed in late December, so the old zoning code does apply. However, it is important to note that the town has made a legislative decision to increase the setbacks and not roll them back. The new code increases the setbacks in an R40 zone. The front setback has increased from 40 to 47 feet, and the side setback has increased from 35 to 41 feet. So you have before you an application that would, if filed in 2024, been even more violative of the intent and purposes of the zoning code. Turning to this application, my clients do not object to the addition of a two-car garage, even though the O'Neill property already has an existing two-car garage. Our objection is simply that this garage can easily be placed within the zoning envelope. Testimony will be presented by our expert, Laura Krikorian, who is an architect, that this two-car garage can be placed within the building envelope without any problem whatsoever. So the site plan and testimony presented here tonight will show that the applicant cannot satisfy the following legal standards for granting of a variance. In section 11.4 of the code, the applicant must prove that the hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the site and not the general characteristics of the surrounding area. The applicant cannot do so. All lots in Anawan are large, and this lot is nearly 2 acres. The applicant must also prove that the grant of a variance will not alter the general character of the area. This application, if granted, most certainly will alter the general character of the area, as it is probably the only site where encroachment into the setback will occur. The zoning board is further required to consider light and views. Testimony will be presented that this application, if granted, will negatively impact light and views. The applicant is required to show that there is no reasonable alternative to enjoy a legally permitted use. Testimony will be presented to show that there are many reasonable alternatives available to this applicant. Lastly, the applicant is required to prove that a denial amounts to more than a mere inconvenience. In fact, denial amounts to nothing more than an inconvenience. Simply put, the garage can be moved within the building envelopes. Anawan Cliffs Association arguably has a higher interest in arguing for respect to setbacks with the O'Neill application due to the ownership of the community lot lying north of this lot. The lot is used by the association as a communal area for its residents and is the local point of the community. The association, as steward of this lot, strongly objects to the grant of this variance. And with that, I'd like to call my first witness, please. Kristen Coopers, please.
I do. Please state your name and spell your last. Kristen Kupres, K-U-P-R-E-S. Thank you.
Kristen, where do you live?
I live at 60 Cliff Drive.
And how far is that from this site?
So it's on the south side of the, it's on the south side of Cliff from Anawan Drive. So I walk it all the time to get to the beach, so I would say it's a less than 5 minute walk.
How far south are you?
Where the, you can't see it on there, but it's where the road starts to turn to loop back on Cliff Drive.
How many lots away from this project?
4.
So you're not within, you're not within 200 feet of,
No, I'm not.
okay.
But you're here to testify as a member of the board of directors.
Thank you, yes. I'm here on behalf of Anawan Cliffs Association Board.
Mhm.
Are you a member of the board? Do the bylaws require that members of the board of directors own property in Anawan?
Yes, they do.
Ms. Liberati, could you speak up just a little bit so we could hear the questions?
Do the bylaws require that members of the board of directors be owners of property in Anawan?
Yes.
All right, and how many members comprise the board of directors?
There are 9 board of directors. There are 9 directors, excuse me, 4 officers and 6 directors.
Did the board of directors oppose the O'Neill application for this variance?
Yes, we did.
Does the association own the roads within the Anawan subdivision?
Yes, they do.
And does the association also own the lot which lies to the north of the O'Neill property across Anawan Drive?
Yeah, lot 61, yes.
Why did the board of directors vote to oppose this application?
We voted unanimously to oppose this application because, as we said, we really would like to preserve the open space at Anawan. And to date, none of the new construction that was referred to earlier has actually infringed on those setbacks. So people have figured out with their, 2 or larger acre lot, how to manage their development without infringing on the setbacks. And that open space is a community center for Anawan. It is the first thing you see when you enter the Anawan Cliffs Association.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Can you tell me how the granting of this variance will affect your organization's stewardship of this community lot?
So because that's the largest lot that the association owns, it's also the sort of gathering place with the beach. That will infringe on the open space into that lot because it will actually put a building much closer to Anawan Drive. And also an oversized garage, right? The average 2-car garage, I believe, is 22 by 24 feet, and this is a 26-foot structure.
It would not, it's not going to be infringing on Anawan Drive, correct?
It will infringe on the open space that sits between Anawan Drive and the first lot when you enter.
If the variance is granted, is there going to be any obstruction of any of the views from people that were utilizing that community lot of the ocean?
It will obstruct the views as you enter the association, and when you walk down Anawan Drive to the intersection of Cliff, it will obstruct those views.
Can you explain how walking down Anawan Drive, where the proposed garage is to be situated on these plans, is going to obstruct anyone's view in any material way as you walk down Anawan Drive?
So it would be, the obstruction of the view would happen at the intersection of Anawan and Cliff and towards Route 1A South. So it would be before that. Certainly the abutters on the north side of Anawan Drive would not obstruct their views.
Okay.
so is it fair to say if this were built, if they were able to fit it inside the building envelope, it would also obstruct your view?
It wouldn't be as much, and it would be within the regulations. At that point,
Oh, okay.
right, at that point, it's sort of compliant.
And
with
if
the
they,
zoning rules.
if they chose to move it, if they could fit it in the building envelope and went to 35 feet, what would that do for the rest of Anawan?
I think it would probably be more offensive to the people that were directly across the street from them, but it would still keep clear the view, the open space That's on Anawan Drive, from Cliff Drive, from Cliff Drive towards 1A South. It would not obstruct that. That open space would maintain its current status.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Ellen?
I just have a quick question. Let's see. This right here, is that a hedge? Does anyone know what that is?
Yes.
Does anyone know how high this hedge is?
Oh, no, it's not. I walk by
So
there
that's
all the time. It's probably about 3.5 feet. The hedge that goes around the corner?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not tall.
so the hedge does not, like if somebody's walking here, the hedge is low enough where the hedge is not obstructing, but the garage would be.
Yes, that is correct.
Does anyone-
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Is there any restrictions on the hedge height?
I can't answer that question.
So what if they allowed it to grow to 6 foot high? Well, it would obstruct the
Well,
view of the hedge.
I think. Go ahead, Steve.
To my knowledge, there wouldn't be any restrictions on vegetation, the height of vegetation. However, there's case law out there regarding spike
But,
fences, things I don't want to get into. But as far as restrictions, general town restrictions or anything like that, there wouldn't be
All right. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, I do. Please state your name and spell your last. My name is Laura Krikorian, Krekorian.
Laura, are you licensed as an architect?
Yes, I am.
In which jurisdictions?
I am licensed in Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts.
And how long have you been so licensed?
I have been licensed for 29 years.
And are you actively engaged as an architect?
Yes, I am.
And how many years?
I've been in business 30 or 31 years.
Have you been engaged as an architect to design projects in Narragansett?
Yes, I have.
And have you done so in Anaheim?
Yes, I have, several.
Have you qualified before as an expert before the Narragansett zoning board?
Yes, I have.
Asked that you qualify as an expert.
For the purposes of this public hearing, Ms. Krikorian will be recognized as an expert in the field of architecture.
Were you engaged by the Anawan Cliffs Association to review the American Engineering Site Plan prior to this application?
Yes, I was.
And have you reviewed the plan?
Yes.
And were you asked to form an opinion as to whether the applicant needed zoning relief
Yes.
in order to construct the garage which is shown on the plan?
Yes.
What is that opinion?
In my opinion, the garage could be shifted even with the 26 by 26 size, and it could meet the yard setbacks, and the driveway still would function properly.
Do you have an opinion about whether or not a 26 by 26 garage is necessary?
I mean, an average size garage today is 24 by 24. I've done two-car garages that are 22 by 22 on some of the very tight lots. I mean, this garage could be 24 by 26, which would be a little bit more than average width, and the depth still would be adequate, which would be 2 feet less of a variance they'd be asking for today, even if it were located in that same spot.
Do you have any, have the ability to show the board how this garage can be shifted so as to fit within the envelope?
Yes,
Would you
if
show
I
the board?
if I may. And these little cutouts of 3 sizes of garages. One is 26 by 26, one is 24 by 26, and the other is 24 by 24. Hopefully you guys can see. You take the 26 by 26 and you shift it from where it is here in this location, where it is on that map up there. You align it with the side property line in the front corner with the front setback. You actually rotate the garage a bit towards the driveway, so you increase the distance from the corner of the garage to the corner of the house, and you make it a little bit more of a gradual sweeping turn, and you have a turning radius to get into the 26 by 26 garage.
Mike, do you have a photograph of the front of the house?
I don't believe we have that here, Mr. Chairman. Is it in the file, do we have photographs in the file, Jill?
No, this was not provided to staff.
Okay. If we had some, I'd dig them out, but we don't have any.
We don't.
Could I have these, 11 by 17 copies of what I just demonstrated here?
Thank you. Mr. Liberati, would you like these marked as an exhibit? Wayne, do you want one? Sure. Yeah.
Marked as objector, Anawan Cliff Association, Exhibit A.
Show one garage configuration, how that would fit within the open envelope. Could you show the board the other configurations?
Garage could rotate so it works, face this drive, that was a suggestion, but driveway opening would have to move. There also could be another option for a little bit less of deep garage, the 24 by 26 wide, where you would need 2 more feet from the front doors of the garage to the turning to the house. So you have a little bit more space there, and if it were an option to do 24 by 24, that would, whoops, give them even more room. Sorry, my tape's worn out. But there are other options where they could meet the yard setbacks with a 2-car garage that is, even the 24 by 24 is average, the 24 by 26 is a little bit more than an average size garage.
So, in entering the driveway, going into the garage, is there enough room to do that?
To be able to pull into the driveway as it exists today and into the doors the way they're proposed on the application, yes, there is room to pull in and out of the garage.
But no, we're talking about your configuration showing the garage within the building.
Yes, there is room to pull in and out even with my configuration.
Is there room to pull in and out of that driveway in any of the 3 configurations that you showed before?
Yes.
Laura, did you take into consideration what this relocation would do to the, although Mr. Liberati said we have to take it, I'm going to a view which we don't really have to. I mean, there's case law on that. Views are not protected. But what this does to the neighbors that are in favor of the project as proposed, who the O'Neills have met with,
I mean, it would shift the garage a little bit closer to the house, which keeps all of the massing of the building closer together. And it would allow for the setback to be maintained.
no, I understand that, but I'm talking about what the neighbors are going to see now versus where it is currently situated on the plan. You have that, what are we gonna call that, a portico in between, or?
So I mean, you would see a little bit less of the portico, of the connector.
Connector, yes.
You would see less of the connector.
But the connector's also shorter in height than the proposed garage, correct? So it gives you a little more of a view corridor between the existing garage and the proposed garage.
But the face you're gonna see, I feel, still is the side of the garage facing Cliff Drive. Regardless of whether it's here or angled a little bit more with the setback, the way I have it.
Mm-hmm.
So that face is there regardless. And this face blocks the view even of the portico. In the configuration that it is on the application, the face of the garage facing Cliff Drive, when you're standing looking at it here, does block the view of the portico.
Ms. Krikorian, I'm looking at the 26 by 26, which is Exhibit A. And can you explain how a car could, I think you testified that it would not impact the ability to back out of the space. But it seems to me as though the parking space that is closest to the eastern side, basically the closest to the water, is would be very close based on where you've located it. Can you just explain to me how it looks like it can back out?
So because the garage rotates a bit towards the road, you gain space that way. And from the garage door into the edge of the driveway is 30 feet, backing straight out. So if you have 30 feet to back out, that is an adequate area.
Can you just take a look at this and explain, because I can't really see that from there. Can you take a look at the exhibit and just, what I'm seeing here is, right, so this seems very close to this concrete.
So that corner to there is 30 feet.
Yeah, you can't hear that, can you? All right.
Well, you understand what I'm asking? Yeah. Yeah.
Just so Alicia can hear you.
So I can see what you're pointing at.
I'm just trying to understand the car coming out here, right? Is going to be very close to,
But so when you construct a structure, you do disturb the site. So there's going to be a foundation put in here, and there may need to be some adjustments made in this corner. But even with their proposal that was back here, there wasn't any driveway between the existing driveway and the structure, so that needed to be adjusted in the field. And also, oops, sorry, that's really loud. This is concrete, which you can drive on. If it's raised, it would need to be adjusted. But you have plenty of backing out space. There would just need to be a little bit of adjustment in the field in that one corner.
so the theory would be that they would back directly out and then turn.
And turn around, yeah.
That's all well and good until you have a car parked in front of the other garage. By tightening it up that much, you're creating an issue there. I don't think you're gonna park a car in front of the existing garage and back out of that easterly bay.
I don't know if that's something that the board needs to manage, where all the cars are parked in the driveway, but the fact of the matter is you could back out of either of those garage doors and get out of the garage and get out of the driveway.
I'm not disputing that, but oftentimes, you know what happens. So, I mean, is that good planning practice?
I think to be able to meet the setbacks is good planning practice, yes.
Okay.
Ms. Krikorian, your opinion excludes any aesthetic considerations, is that right? That you rendered here tonight?
My job wasn't to look at what the garage looks like or the style of it or any of the aesthetics of the garage. My job was to look at the site plan and see if the two-car garage could fit within the setback.
All right, and
Outside of the setback.
okay, and as an architect, when you're working for a customer, aesthetic considerations are typically important, correct?
Yes, they are.
All right, and you were sitting in the audience too when Ms. Kubris testified, correct? Is what you're proposing be done here, is that going to have any material change in what she testified to would be problems with maintaining or, just to use their words, stewardship of that north lot?
I mean, if the building meets the setbacks, I feel like it is in compliance with what the town regulations are. And I would think that anyone would want it to meet the setbacks if it can, whether it affects the other lot or people walking up and down the road. If it meets the setbacks, there's more open space between the road and the building itself. So I feel like that is a positive.
And how much, have you calculated how much square footage space is gained? In other words, that's going to be created, open space that's going to be created as a result of your proposal?
I did not calculate this little, it's kind of an odd shape, it's almost a triangle. I'm sure I could calculate it, but I did not do that.
Could you make just a guess for us how much square footage we're talking about here?
Engineer that did the design, I think, to do that figure. I'm not gonna guess at that, sorry.
Thanks.
It is a small percentage.
In your opinion, how critical is architecture in a neighborhood like this?
I mean, I feel like the design could stay the same, even if they did meet the setbacks. But in this neighborhood, where the neighborhood was established with larger setbacks, in order to promote open space, I think that's really important. And if everyone starts asking for variances to fill in their side yard setbacks, all the buildings are gonna start encroaching on all of the view corridors that people have now. So those setbacks are really important, and to start filling them in, just because you want to. I mean, I don't feel like there's a serious hardship here. They can meet the setbacks. And still have the garage look very similar to what it looks with the design that they put together, what they proposed. If they didn't want to affect anyone's views, they could have done it as a one-story structure. That would have been much lower and much smaller. But you know, they want the second floor up there, which is a fun thing for the grandkids to want to gather. And I have kids that are going to have grandkids, I'm going to want space like that too one day. But if I were designing this project, I wouldn't be here in front of you. I would have designed it so that it meets the setbacks and it's still beautiful. I think that's what my job is to meet as many requirements as I can when I put together a project.
Anyone else?
Mr. Krikorian, I understand that you're here as an expert for the objectives. I just want to ask if you are a member of the Anawan community.
No, I'm not. I live in Wakefield.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have worked in there on several projects, but I don't have any vested interest in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm turning your attention to section 11.4 of the code, entitled standards to be met in granting of variance. The first element requires the applicant to show, quote, that the hardship in which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure, and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area. Is the hardship, if any, due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure?
I do not believe so, no. It's a large lot, they can fit the addition within the building envelope.
Code also provides that the applicant show, quote, that the granting of the variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area, unquote. Will this application, if granted, alter the general character of the surrounding area?
That one I believe is a yes, because it would be building outside the building envelope. It's closer to the property line than what is allowed, and there aren't a lot of houses in that neighborhood that are closer to each other or encroaching on setbacks that you can see even visually when you drive through.
Code also says that the zoning board shall consider, quote, access to ear, light, and views, unquote. Does this plan affect views?
I believe it will affect the views, yes.
The code also says that the applicant is required to prove that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. Does this plan demonstrate that the relief requested is the least relief necessary?
I think I've shown that, that it can meet the setbacks and doesn't require relief in order to be built on the property.
The code also provides that the applicant prove that there is no other reasonable alternative way to enjoy a legally permitted beneficial use unless the relief is, or the relief is granted. Does this plan demonstrate that there are no reasonable alternative ways to enjoy the permitted use?
No.
For the same reasons, correct?
Yes, for the reasons I just stated. Yep.
The code states that in granting a dimensional variance, the applicant for relief must show by evidence upon the record that the hardship that will be suffered by the owner of the subject property, if dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience. Will the applicant suffer more than a mere inconvenience if the variance request is denied?
I don't believe so, because they could shift the garage and meet the setbacks and not require a variance. And then they could build the garage and still enjoy it.
And in all of those standards that we've recited, talked about with regard to the code, do any of them concern aesthetics?
No.
Just like to call Mr. Patrick for a few questions.
Mr. Freeman?
Patrick, you drew a plan that shows certain regulatory constraints, correct?
That is correct.
Among those constraints are the zoning setbacks, both from N1 to Cliff Drive, correct?
Correct.
You also showed on that plan the CRMC setback, correct?
The 200-foot coastal jurisdiction, yes.
So is the space between the zoning setbacks and the CRMC jurisdictional limit, is that considered the zoning envelope?
I don't know the definition of that term, zoning envelope, the
Okay,
buildable.
well then I'll ask it another way.
Sure.
Does the area that lies between the zoning setbacks and the CRMC jurisdictional limit, the area which is not constrained by regulation?
Correct.
No further questions.
Yes, Steve?
So, just my chairman went off the reservation without asking. Since
Yes, I looked and you didn't, didn't make eye contact, so. Yes.
I think I can get my point across by using my expert, so I appreciate that concern, thank you.
I'm going to ask, the next witness for the association is Mr. Jim Grace, but I'm not going to ask him. It's not going to be Q&A, he's just going to make his presentation.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last.
James Grace, Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Mr. Grace, how are you?
I have about 8 objections here, letters. I can read each one, but I'll bring you past 9 o'clock, I think. I can
It's
submit
not
them to the
necessary.
board if you wish.
No, it's not necessary to read them, sir. We can enter them into the record for informational purposes.
Pelosi is a resident of Anawan Cliffs and a butter. And she is objecting to this, and it will affect her view as well, her property values, she considers. So,
But we're going to just enter them into the record, Mr. Grace. I don't want you to go through every one.
okay,
Okay?
I'll be happy to. I don't believe so.
Thank you, Mr. Grace.
Well,
Mark them as one exhibit.
Okay. Objectors, Exhibit B.
Anawan Cliffs was developed in 1945. And from the original start, it was considered to be private. We pay for snow plowing, we pay for drainage cleaning, we maintain the 3 lots that we own. There's 61 total lots, I believe, and most of them belong to the association. The association also owns 15 feet in front of all these lots. So they control. So I personally consider them abutters, because each one of them have an interest in that land. Lot 61, which is north of the subject property, is a beach, and it's highly used by the residents in that area. It is maintained by us, by the association, and we also pay for fire hydrants. We pay taxes to the town, and consider ourselves private. Why do people buy in the Anawan Cliffs? Well, number one, because it is private, and number two, because we control the overbuilding, and it gives it a desirable place to live. That's why people want to be in Anawan. If your house comes up for sale, it isn't on the market very long. To my knowledge, no one has ever lost money in Anawan Cliffs as far as selling their properties. So it's a very desirable area to live in. The supposed garage here, proposed garage, I should say, will affect a lot of views inland, I being one of them. This is my only corridor to the water.
Not to interrupt you, Mr. Grace, but there is no right to a view in Rhode Island,
I understand.
okay? So I just want you to know, everybody keeps bringing up the view, but there is no right to a view,
I understand.
okay?
It's when you have a view and you lose it, it becomes
I
important.
fully understand.
All
that.
right,
And
I understand. Me too. But, so, it is going to impact the whole community. We don't, I was serving on the chair, as chair on the board for a few sessions. We had 3 appeals come up for variances. Those 3 were denied. And we stand pretty firm on that. So I thank you for your time, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Grace. Are there any questions of Mr. Grace? Thank you. Mr. Liberati?
Unless there was another member of the community, which
You're done, sir? Okay.
I am John T. Stormaker Jr.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I go by Jack, but Sornberger.
And what's your first name?
John, Jack, whatever you want.
Sir, could you repeat your name for the board, please?
Sornberger, Jack Sornberger or John Sornberger.
Okay.
I've only been in Anawan 10 years. I was in the military for 26 years, and I worked at this defense contractor. I've lived all over the world. My wife and I have moved 16 times in 26 years, so we've seen a lot of different places. I grew up in Bonnet Shores as a kid, and I look at it now, and I wouldn't even recognize it. And the same with the different other places. But I'm not against Jim building his garage if he does it without a variance. You know, I mean, you can do what you want, but the certain thing is that I came to Anawan, I like the rules and everything. Some you don't like, some you don't, but you go by them. But you have, once you give in these one, there's a hardship, something else, somebody else is gonna come up and say, I wanna put a volleyball court in for my kids or something else. You know, it gets out of sight. I'm just saying, you know, a new guy, he's been here 50 years, but you gotta look at the big picture. I just want to say I don't support Jim's variance. I listened to the other lady here and stuff. If you move into a different place on the lot, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Sonberger, can I just ask you just maybe a point of history that you might be able to help us with? The lot that's to the I guess it would be to the south of the applicant's lot?
Yes?
How did that get built? How is that within the side setbacks and all this other stuff, if you can help me out with that?
This one here?
No, the one right directly to that property.
That is the south.
Okay.
How is that not encroaching on the side setbacks?
The way I understand it, Mr. Massey, he wanted to build that 100 feet towards the water. Okay? And certain people did not like that. They complained about it, and he said, okay, keep the information, keep it straight, and abide by my neighbors. He moved it in there. And everything happy.
Do you agree that that particular property is in violation of the association's setback requirement? I mean, I'm just trying to find an historical base. I'm trying to understand what's going on.
I can't answer that.
This is, it's from the GIS system, which is notoriously inaccurate. That's not a survey. I don't know anything about Mr. Massey's plan, but I can tell you that you can't go by that yellow line to find.
No, and actually, you can't, you're right, Mr. Legrady, you can't, it's not, that's, I believe the tax assessors might, and oftentimes they're inaccurate when it's put up, so, we really can't
Yeah, no, I
go
know
by
that,
that.
but
But I
I'm
mean,
just-
given
it
that,
looks-
you have a legitimate question.
Doesn't look like that one's in conformity with,
No,
that's all I'm saying visually. I'm not, I agree with what everyone's saying. but-
Thank you. Let's have-
You're welcome, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Karen Grace, Karen Grace, Grace.
Your right hand, please, thank you.
I do. I was just wondering what the interior of this garage is going to look like. If you're putting a loft inside, you're going to have a staircase inside the garage going up to the loft. Is the loft going to be enclosed? You've got little children running around. You don't want them falling on the garage floor. I was just wondering what the interior was, and whether it can fit 2 cars in here, plus the staircase, or whatever.
Mrs. Grace, whatever, I'm speaking, the interior, if there is a stairwell, it's going to have to meet building codes, and the building official will.
So that, okay, that answers my question.
It can't be a wide open staircase.
Yes,
It has to meet code.
so they would have the building inspector come and
Oh, yeah,
inspect it after
absolutely,
construction, if possible. Thank you.
Wayne, do you want to add to that? Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Surdet, you have the last word.
If I may recall Ms. Kelsey to speak to the hedge issue that was raised and the heights of the hedge.
Certainly.
And she has, I've known her father well enough to know that she has extensive yard work experience on the site. So I think she can speak to that.
Okay, if I say 200
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you again. So the hedge, I confirmed, is about 4 feet tall. It could certainly go taller. There are no requirements in the neighborhood. Trees can be of any height. That's part of the association. I can be corrected, but I think that's correct. I'd also just like to note that there was a lot of discussion about the use of the association property down there. It's a parking lot more often than not. There are very few people that use that. It was called a community gathering area, I believe. I would find anyone in the neighborhood hard pressed to call it that. Again, the road going down there, people do walk down. It's mostly golf carts and visitors of neighbors more often than not. I could count you on one hand how many people in the neighborhood often use that beach. I'd also just like to say, and I know and respect Jim and Jack and family very much and appreciate their desire to not set a precedent here. And I think that that was the point that I took away from that, and I can respect that. But I would also just note, and I appreciate also, Mr. Kyle, your point there, what we have seen in this neighborhood and the character of this neighborhood is unprecedented in Narragansett, from my perspective. Again, 36 years old. I've spent my life, I live in New Hampshire at the moment, but I spent a lot of time here and born and raised here. That house, Mr. Massey, who again I respect, had developed a friendship with the neighbor there. I wanted to come before this, maybe not this body, but several bodies in this town when that home was being built, when the home across the street was being built. My kids, who were babies at the time, were covered in soot. I dealt with, respectfully, and apologies if it's improper, construction workers smoking marijuana every day as I walked my children by their home in the morning at 6 a.m. when I was awake during COVID. I spent a lot of time with my parents. My parents' response to that, we don't want to cause any problems. We don't need any bad blood. These are our neighbors. We want to have good relationships with them. This design is meant to be the best for our family, but also for the neighborhood. You heard that it was 23 feet high instead of 35. You heard how they sat on their neighbors' porches and spoke with each of them. Respectfully, the letters you received today are not from abutters. And I'm sorry to share all this, and I know it's maybe not as relevant to the feet, but we are talking about a few feet here. And I think the issue that Anawan has raised is the precedent that they don't want to set. But I believe the precedent has already been set by the homes that have been raised and built up 3 to 4 stories high. Next door is a 7,000 square foot home. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's 10,000. It's massive, unnecessary. This is the neighborhood we live in. My family has adapted to that. This is our minor accommodation to that. Yes, it is a hardship for my children to play in that driveway and worry about cars backing out into what is a stone wall and hedges. That is a hardship. If they're riding their bike there and I can't safely have them there because of a smaller area, and then we have to back out or we have to park along the road, I don't think the association would like that either. So I'll stop there. I apologize if I sound a little emotional. This is a little challenging, but thank you.
And I
Thank
hope
you.
I'm not taking a page out of your book, Steve, to say that, as we all know, there's no precedent in zoning. Each lot and each application stands on its own 2 feet. And I'd like to recall Mr. Freeman as well to address some of the technical aspects of what was presented.
Okay.
Thank you. In regards to the relocation of the garage, I just want to reiterate my opinion in that if we were to move the 26 by 26 square foot, foot garage outside of the setback and maintain that orientation, that you would have room to pull into that garage. You would not have room to back out of that garage and make a turn to get out of the driveway. You'd have to back onto Cliff Drive, and I believe that that's a safety hazard, and that's where I stand on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
I know we're getting late in the evening, so I'll do my best to be brief, although us lawyers are not necessarily good at that. I think you've heard I believe and I know you've heard testimony here tonight to show that this application meets the elements of a variant being granted for this application. As I said before, we've put forth a proposed set of criteria that's in your packets regarding how each and every one of those elements have been met. I will try not to go through each and every one of them, but I think you've heard both through the technical testimony of Mr. Freeman, the real life experience of one of the daughters of the homeowner, that not being granted this small amount of relief will amount to more than a mere inconvenience. We've heard talk here about view corridors. We've heard talk here about open space. We believe that those things are really red herrings to the issue and the elements in front of you. Is the granting of this application going to amount to more than a mere inconvenience and a hardship to the applicant for them to reasonably use and enjoy their property? And I would suggest to you that we have absolutely met those elemental standards. And that's what this board's decision is. This application was was given us support by your planning board. This application is a minor deviation from the setbacks. This application was taken, great accord was taken to meet and to be within the characteristics of the surrounding community, as you can tell by the letters of support from the the potential, or the homeowners who could be potentially most impacted by this. I believe we've met each and every one of your elements here tonight. I'd be happy to address any other questions or concerns the board has at this time.
Does anyone else want to, like to speak? Any questions on this? No. I guess not, Mr. Sadett.
Thank you.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion that we close this public hearing.
So moved. Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. This public hearing is now closed. What is the board's pleasure in regards to O'Neill? Well, everybody jump at once.
Well, let me say this. We received a lot of testimony, and there's a lot to look at. Sorry.
Yes.
So I did want to say that we received a lot of testimony, and there's a lot to digest here. I would suggest a written decision be done, as opposed to making that decision this evening. Let me just stop there.
Okay.
My only issue is that I will not be at the next hearing. So I don't know if we need to deliver.
Well, we've got everyone here, so.
Okay.
I mean, if it comes to that.
We only need 4.
Yes.
Oh, no, we only need 4 people?
Well, but if 5 are here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's even better. Yeah. Right. No, actually, we want, right?
If 5 are here, 5 will vote.
Yeah. But push come to shove, if we go down to 4, we could issue the decision.
True. We have 7, so 5
All right.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think this is probably one of the longer and more substantial hearings that we've taken a lot of evidence on, and I frankly couldn't digest it in the next 5 minutes.
Okay. If somebody would like to put that in the form of a motion. Move it to a date certain, written decision.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to have a written decision made by April 18th, was it? April 18th, date certain.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made and properly seconded to move this to a decision date of April 18th? All right, so there's no more testimony to be taken. This is down for decision only on April 18th. All right?
Understood, Mr. Chairman. I will have no further testimony on that hearing. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. I agree with Mr. Kyle. This was a substantial hearing, and I think I appreciate everyone's professionalism here tonight, and I look forward to hearing your decision at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sadett. All right, we're going to take a brief recess. The stenographer's been working furiously, so. No more than 5 minutes, please. I think I need some help with my microphone. Hmm? I got it? All right. All right, just so everyone understands what we're doing here, we're going to go with Drury next, then we will go to Rinaldi. Sorry, Mr. Zingari, unless, I mean, you can wait a little longer if you want. And then we'll finish up with Brady Hogan, and Gregory will be last, so. So Drury is a continuation from 2 weeks ago, also located in Anawan. Mr. Drury, why don't you come up? You've been sworn in already. You've been sworn, so you can,
Not for this one, but the last one counts?
yes, yes. This is a continuation of that public hearing.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to go through all that again. Essentially, I
Well,
was here mainly for questions.
That's good, because I wasn't going to let you.
All right. Just a quick summary. Essentially, I got too big of a truck for the 18-foot garage basically to hold, so I'm asking for a variance, basically, of slightly less than 3 feet to basically house this thing and get some storage.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Not everyone was here from, but that's the essence of his. And actually, Steve, who was here?
Chris, Tony, you, Christine, I'm sorry, Ellen and Al.
All right, so we'll be the decision makers on this because we've heard Mr. Drury's. Okay? All right, so you have nothing to add. I will give you a chance for summation at the end of this if you'd like.
I have to stay through everybody else.
Yeah, after they get done beating you up for being a bad guy. So at this time, if you have nothing else to add, Mr. Drury, I'm going to ask if there is anyone who's in favor of your proposal would like to speak. You can take a seat, sir. Thank you.
I'm in favor. Thank you, guys.
Okay. No one's coming forward. It's a wild stab. Mr. Liberati is still in the audience. Would you like to speak against this proposal, sir?
Just a formal objection, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure you don't want to hear any more about respect for setbacks and height variances and all the rest of it.
No, I live for it, sir.
Okay. All right, so it's just a formal objection on the part of the association on the same basis as the prior application, that this is a request for a variance. That's all I'm going to say. We're not going to get into the design of the garage and the storage and whether the roof line can be lowered and all the rest of it, because we just want to keep it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Liberati. Is there anyone else? Okay. I guess, Mr. Drury, do you have anything that you'd like to add before we close this public hearing?
No, just once again, the issue is these things, if they burn, they go up quick, and you have to have it in a detached garage, because if anything's attached, the likelihood that it basically could take the house out before the inhabitants even knew there was a fire is there.
Okay.
It burned fast and hot. We decided to move it away from the house, and like I said, we were trying to figure out what the setback rules were in Anawan, and when the original place we had it, which was more convenient to us, essentially, the 55-foot setback was coming right through the middle of the garage. I didn't want to mess with that, so I had the surveyor basically place it where it didn't infringe upon any of that stuff, and the only issue we're asking for is basically 2-foot, 11.5-inch variance, basically on the height.
On the height. Okay. Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved. Second.
A motion is made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Okay, so for the record, Chris, Tony, myself, Ellen, and Al are voting on this because we heard the entirety of Mr. Drury's testimony 2 weeks ago. Steve, do you agree? Okay. So in regards to Drury, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to project summary, Drury Tax Assessor's Plat N-J Lot 51, the address being 10 South Cliff Drive, the applicant has submitted a request to construct a 24 by 30-foot detached garage at the above address, and they are seeking a variance from the dimensional regulation 6.4, which restricts the height of accessory structures to 18 feet at the highest point. The applicant is seeking a 2-foot, 11-inch variance to the 18-foot height limit. I would like to incorporate the findings of fact as noted in the project summary as represented because neither at the hearing on March 7th nor tonight those facts were either confirmed or were not disputed tonight. So I would propose to incorporate those findings of fact in this finding. The staff noted that the application did not include floor plans, so staff could not confirm a second story, but the applicant did testify that they were proposing a second story above the garage for storage in his testimony. I would also like to reference the fact that the planning board reviewed the application as required. They found it to be complete and in conformance with the comprehensive plan of Narragansett, but recommended, and Jill or somebody, I'd like to confirm this because I want to make sure I get it correct, but the project summary said that that the planning board recommended that the application be denied, but with conditions 1 through 5, and I think it might mean, I don't know what the planning board did with that one. So I want to just clear that up as part of my presentation. Yeah, I know.
Shouldn't it just be a straight denial?
Or did they actually approve it with conditions? Because one of the conditions is reducing the height.
I believe they approved it with conditions, yes.
Okay, so I want to know.
That is a typo on our part, Ms. Cornell.
Okay, I'll check it.
Ms. Cornell, would you like me to check that?
Do you have the ability to check that quick?
I can pull that up. What month was that?
I don't know.
I'm actually asking Heidi.
Oh.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, here we have, Ms. Cornell. It said to recommend denial of the relief.
Okay.
So they did not suggest with conditions.
Got it, okay. So back to the summary. So I note that the planning board did recommend that this application be denied. At the hearing on March 7th, Mr. Drury testified that the variance was necessary for safety reasons because his new, or his EV truck is large and requires that the first floor of the garage be at least 10 foot before the rafters. Mr. Drury submitted into evidence written specifications for housing an EV, and the EV is supposed to be in a detached structure away from the house, and that's what requires the 18 feet. Mr. Drury further testified that he would then like to use the second floor above that 10-foot first floor for storage, and that the reduced height in the second floor ceiling is not extremely useful for his family. Mr. Drury then had Mr. George, and I'm going to really butcher this one, Spathakakis. Hi, you're here. Okay. Testified that if you cut down the slope of the garage to where you meet the 18-foot requirement, you only get 4.9 headroom in for storage, and that's just not a usable, that to them would mean that there wouldn't be no walk-up staircase, and that would be unworkable. Mr. Spathakakis also testified that the ceiling of the garage is as low as it can be. The first floor ceiling is as low as it can be to house that very large EV, electric vehicle truck. They also testified, Mr. Drury and Mr. Spathakakis also testified that there was no possible structural redesign, even at a greater cost, that would permit a bigger headspace and maintain the 10-foot lower. We did also hear from Mr. James Grace at that meeting, who testified in favor of the project. Mr. Grace stated that the applicant was a good neighbor and has done everything possible to comply with all the rules and regulations, and that it was a hardship to not approve this application. There was no one who testified in opposition to the project at the March 7th meeting. Tonight, we did hear a general objection from Mr. Liberati on behalf of the Anawan Cliffs Association. So, while I don't think the board disputes that Mr. Drury has done everything right in connection with this request, and I would love to be able to recommend that the board approve his request, I do not see that the applicant has met his burden of proof in at least two respects. We're required to find that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique character of the land. I didn't hear any testimony, and I don't see that the land has anything to actually do with the reason why the applicant needs the relief. I think it has all to do with the fact that there's an electric vehicle, a large electric vehicle that the applicant has that is the reason for the needed relief. And the vehicle has very unique needs in this case, but those unique needs do not comply with our zoning ordinance. So also, we're required to find that the hardship that the applicant suffers is more than a mere inconvenience. And I do not think that the evidence shows that that burden was met either. Mr. Drury will still be able to house his EV in a garage with an 18-foot height. He just will not have the optimum storage with the large headspace. So therefore, I make a motion to deny this application.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded.
Oh, you have to vote.
You're absolutely right. Thank you.
So
Just drop there.
I make a motion to adopt the facts as set forth in the project summary.
Okay. I'll second. Thank you, Chris.
Ms. Cornell, I just wanted to clarify, in the comments, it says that they did not submit floor and elevation plans. There's a correction, they did, it was before the public hearing, I just forgot to take it out.
I will amend my summary, my motion and summary accordingly. Thank you.
Okay. So a motion has been made to enter the findings of fact into the record. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Chris, thank you for picking that up. Go ahead, Ellen.
So based on the summary that I just presented and the findings of fact that are entered into the record, I move to deny this application.
I'll second that.
Wait a minute, let me.
In addition to,
Let me call for discussion first. All right? So a motion, that's all right. A motion has been made and properly seconded to deny the request. Is there, it's open for discussion right now.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to Ellen's statement with respect to standard that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is not due to the unique characteristics of the subject land. I also believe that it's unfortunately self-created as a result of the need for a garage of this size because it is an electric vehicle. And I think Mr. Drury made a great presentation at the last hearing with respect to the issues and his desire to build this garage in the safest manner possible. In other words, not attach it to the house in case there is a fire. But I think, as Ellen pointed out, it can be built at an 18-foot height. He just is not going to have the second story that he wants. And so therefore, I don't think it meets the standard that it's the least relief necessary, because the garage can still be built, can still house the electric vehicle, and meet Mr. Dury's needs, just not all the needs that he presented at the hearing. And I think if it was a standard truck, he probably wouldn't need a variance at all. So to that extent, I think it's a self-created hardship.
Al, you got anything? Anthony? All right. I'm just going to go down this road because Mike and I have had this discussion. This is where I personally think 18 feet is not high enough. And you and I have discussed this numerous occasions, especially in a neighborhood like this. Architecturally, you're gonna change the entire look of this building. I think, it's been a pet peeve of mine. I think it should be addressed going forward. For that reason, and I think Mr. Drury put on a very good case. I'm going to vote in favor personally, but so we'll just go down the. Chris, you're a no? I'm a no. Okay. Anthony?
Hold on. The motion was to deny, so if you want to deny, it would be a yes.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. Yes, okay. All right, actually, let me do it this way. So motion is, any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion to deny?
Aye.
No? You're in favor? Okay. I'm opposed to the motion, so it passes 4-1, denial. Okay. You got a for sale sign on it, Mr. Drew? All right. Okay. Next item, Rinaldi. Good evening, Mr. Zangari.
Christopher Zangari, I'm representing the building official, Wayne Pimentel.
Good evening. Long time no see. My name is Andrew Blaze. I'm here on behalf of John and Sandra Rinaldi. I'm from Duffy and Sweeney. For the record, the address is 321 South Main Street, Suite 400 in Providence, Rhode Island. Thanks.
I'd like to call our first witness, Wayne Pimentel. Sure.
Yes, please. It's an opening. trying to spend, good evening. My name is Andrew Blaze, and I'm here on behalf of the Rinaldis regarding their appeal of the December 22nd NOV. We filed a motion to dismiss and/or stay these proceedings last week. We specifically listed 5 rationales for why it should be dismissed. Those 5 rationales are in that motion. For the purposes of time, I won't go into them just yet. We would suggest, however, that these arguments are fundamentally the same as the ones regarding the 2022 notice of violation. That was appealed to the Rhode Island Superior Court. The briefing has been completed. It's before Judge Lanphier now for a decision. Both parties have submitted briefs. The briefs were voluminous. Every argument that's made to this board was made to the Superior Court. We believe that this should be stayed, the consideration of this appeal, because they are fundamentally the same questions regarding the 4 unrelated ordinance and how it is applied to my client. We believe that a stay is proper, especially due to the fact that the federal court case, which many of you are familiar with because it was the rationale for upholding the 2022 NOV, that court has stayed that case pending the result of Judge Lanphier's decision. So we believe that a stay is appropriate in this matter until such time as Judge Lanphier renders a decision, because that decision will apply to one, if not one or more of the arguments that we'll make tonight from a court, not to say that this board is not powerful or authoritative, but the Superior Court does have the legal high ground on this situation. So it would be my request that this board stay the proceeding until such time as a decision in that matter has been rendered. Now, before I end my opening, I just want to, for the record, I know that Steve had mentioned this in a prior hearing, that the board does not like to do cross-examination. Here I would ask the board just a little leeway to ask the 2 people who will be witnesses for the town, if we get to the hearing, to ask questions of those 2 individuals, because it is fundamental to our case at hand.
Steve? Yes, we did. How about Mr. Blaze's argument on awaiting the judge's decision? Okay. Well, I'm comfortable with that advice. So, this time, Mr. Zangari, you have the floor.
Town calls Wayne Pimental.
I do. Please state your name and spell your last. Wayne Pimental, Pimental. Thank you.
Mr. Pimental, who's your employer?
The town of Narragansett,
And what do you do for the town of Narragansett?
the building and zoning official.
Are you also the keeper of records for the zoning department?
Yes.
Has everybody received a copy of Towns 1? Oh, still making it around. That's Towns 1. Mr. Pimental, are you familiar with the document in your hand which has been labeled Towns 1?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell the board what it is?
That is the rental registration certificate for 45 Sylvan Road.
And on that certificate, does it say the number of bedrooms?
Yes, it does.
Does it list the number of tenants?
Yes, it does.
What is the number of tenants listed?
6,
Who completes that form to your knowledge?
the owner or the owner's representative.
And is this kept in the ordinary course of business by the town of Narragansett?
Yes, it is.
And is it your understanding that this is a fair and accurate representation and copy of that rental registration for that particular property?
Yes.
That's good, thank you. Please mark that as Towns 2, please. That's one. Mr. Pimental, I'm showing you what's been marked and submitted as Towns number 2. Can you tell the board what that document is?
That's the municipal code violation dated December 22nd, 2023, to John and Sandra Rinaldi for the property at 45 Sylvan Road.
Who issued that notice of violation?
I did.
And why did you, strike that, under what zoning code ordinance did you issue that violation?
That's under zoning section 2 definitions of a household.
And how did you determine that John and Sandra Rinaldi were the owners of that property?
Through the tax assessor records.
And did you cause a copy of that notice of violation to be sent to the Rinaldis?
Yes.
Can you tell us how you caused that copy to be sent?
Through certified mail.
Could you mark that as Towns 3, please? Mr. Pimental, I'm showing you what's been marked and submitted as Towns 3. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the copy of the certified mailing and the certified receipt for that mailing.
Have you received a response or any type of compliance from the Rinaldis from that notice of violation you issued?
Other than them signing for the notice?
Nothing.
No.
How did you learn of the notice of violation?
Through a complaint.
And who made that complaint, if you recall? Was it from a citizen in Narragansett?
Yes.
And based on that complaint, what did you do, if anything?
We sent our rental registration investigator to go to the property to determine if in fact the violation was viable.
And who is the zoning inspector?
Larry Edelman?
And did Larry go to the property, to your knowledge?
Yes, he did.
Did he find anything out regarding the violation, whether it was in fact a violation?
Yes, he did.
And what did he tell you, if anything?
Well, this house was deemed a nuisance house through the police department, so he went there with the Narragansett Police Department patrolman and to speak with the students, which is our standard policy after the house is deemed a nuisance house.
And based on what Mr. Eidelman told you, what did you do?
Based upon the fact that he was able to determine that there were 6 unrelated individuals, I then issued the violation.
Thank you, Mr. Pimentel. Next, I'm going to call Larry Eidelman. Thank you, Wayne.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, before we do that, I'm sorry, stay up, Wayne. I'd ask that all those be submitted as full exhibits, and Wayne, stay up.
All right.
Yeah, that's
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Boyce.
You testified that the complaint came from an Narragansett town citizen, is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm going to hand out a packet that I would like to submit as defense exhibit A for comments. I only have 8 copies, so I'm going to start with.
Start with the secretary, please. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Pimentel, give me one. Mr. Pimentel, if everyone could turn to the second page, Steve, I only have enough copies, my apologies. And I only have enough, so I'm just going to ask. The complainant contact information on that form, this is the second page, this is the complaint form. Who is that from?
That's from Inspector Larry Edelman.
Okay, do you know who the Narragansett citizen was who filed the complaint then?
I'd like to correct my statement on that. This complaint came in through the police department as a nuisance house, and it wasn't from a resident.
Now, Mr. Pimentel, you said there was a standard policy. When did that standard policy come into effect?
That was in effect prior to my starting work with the town.
And is that policy written?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Pimentel, when you issued the NOV, well, before you issued the NOV, did you ever consider if Mr. Rinaldi and Mrs. Rinaldi's use was a legal non-conforming use by either dimension or by use?
There was no need to,
Why not?
because the ordinance of more than 4 unrelated was what I was using to issue the notice of violation.
And Mr. Pimentel, the ordinance is a zoning ordinance, is that correct?
That's correct.
Does Rhode Island law require that non-conforming uses be provided for in zoning ordinances?
Yes.
So in that case, would you have had to consider whether it was a non-conforming use?
No.
Why not?
As I stated, it was a violation of the definition of the 4 unrelated ordinance, not the use.
So your contention
No, it's used as a single-family residence.
So okay, so it's used as a single-family residence, but the so the four unrelated ordinance is neither a zoning ordinance affecting use or dimension?
The for unrelated is related to, I would probably say, the use of the property.
Okay, so if it's related to the use of the property, then it would be non-conforming by use if there was a finding that there had been non-conformance prior to the adoption of the four unrelated ordinance. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure.
Mr. Pimentel, were you at the board meeting, this board's meeting on July 26th, 2023?
I believe so.
That was the final meeting of this board when they made a determination that my clients previously had violated the four unrelated ordinances. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Pimentel, do you remember the finding motion, the conclusion motion made by a board member to find that the Rinaldis had violated the four unrelated ordinance? It went, and I'm going to quote directly as follows. These appellants in the court pleading referenced in the findings of fact admitted the following at paragraph 89 of the second amended complaint prior to the town's adoption of the four unrelated ordinance. I think that's a typo, but it says east side. It's under the Rinaldi NOV. And its predecessors in interest used and continue to use 45 Sylvan Road to rent to more than four unrelated individuals. Without this admission, their appeal would also have to be granted or sustained like Benita's, because there would otherwise be little to no evidence that the board could reasonably rely on to find a violation. Do you remember that being stated?
I recollect that, yes.
So, the board found that in its prior hearing that the Rinaldis had previously, before the town adopted the four unrelated ordinance, and continuing up until August 2023 at least, rented their property to four or more unrelated individuals. Is that correct?
They may have.
Okay. And finally, did you ask anyone at the property or the Rinaldis whether they had rented to less than four unrelated individuals from August 2023 to today?
No.
Is the foreign related ordinance that you violated, that you issued the NOV under, still effective today?
It's been changed. It's now 3 unrelated.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Eidelman.
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last.
Larry Eidelman, E-I-D-E-L-M-A-N.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's your employer, Mr. Eidelman?
Town of Narragansett,
In what capacity are you employed?
as a code enforcement officer.
How long have you been doing that?
1 year today.
Were you working as the code enforcement? Let me go back. What are your duties as the code enforcement officer?
Many, but mostly investigating complaints that are brought in by various sources. Also working in conjunction with the Narragansett Police Department, specifically Officer O'Connor, to work on issues related to nuisance homes and other findings that they have that we work together on.
And were you working as the code enforcement officer for Narragansett on December 5th of 2023?
Yes, sir.
On sometime on December 5th, did you have the chance to visit the property owned by the Rinaldis?
I didn't know that it was owned by the Rinaldis. I visited 45 Sylvan Road, if that's what you're referring to.
Did you visit 45 Sylvan Road?
I did.
About what time of day were you there, if you remember?
notes for a second.
Was it in the morning?
It was in the morning.
Okay. And who did you go there with, if anybody?
I went there with Officer Kevin O'Connor of the Narragansett Police Department.
And when you got to the property, did you speak to any of the residents or people inside the dwelling?
We did.
Who did you talk to, if you remember?
I believe we talked to a gentleman named Washburn. I can tell you exactly. Mashburn, Luke Mashburn, and Jack Valenti are the two individuals I spoke directly with. I believe there was a third individual there who also conversed with Patrolman O'Connor.
And where were you when you had this conversation?
Right at the threshold to the front door.
And where was Patrolman O'Connor in relation to you?
Same as you are to me right now, side by side.
So is it fair to say that the two of you were having a conversation face-to-face with at least two individuals that you identified as Mashburn and Valenti?
Exactly true.
All right. What did Mashburn and Valenti tell you, if anything?
I had asked to see a copy of the lease. We told them why we were there. They knew why we were there because it had been because of a follow-up of a police offense over the weekend of a loud party. So they expected that we were going to be there. Officer O'Connor spoke first and went through the procedures of what a nuisance house meant. I then spoke to them and said a few other things to be careful of moving forward so that they didn't re-violate, which becomes a serious offense and a fine. I then asked to see a copy of the lease.
Were you presented with a lease?
They could not provide one.
Did you ask them any questions about their tenancy?
I asked how many of them were renting there.
And what answer did you get, if any?
6.
Did you ask them any other questions?
I asked if any of them were related
What was
to
their-
another.
And what was the response you got, if you got a response?
I did get a response. They said no. Both parties that I spoke to said no.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Towns 4 by the clerk. And ask you to just briefly read that. Tell me when you're done.
Okay.
I would submit this is an affidavit that's been signed and notarized by Patrolman Kevin O'Connor of the Narragansett Police Department. Mr. Eitelman, does Mr. O'Connor's version of the events in this affidavit coincide with, and is it consistent with your version and your remembrance of what happened on that morning?
It is.
I'd ask that that also be admitted as a full exhibit on behalf of the town. At any time, did anybody in the property tell you that they were related to each other?
No, at no time.
At any time, did Mr. Mashburn or Mr. Valenti indicate that they or anyone in the house were related in any way?
No, they did not.
Have you come to learn that Mr. Mashburn and Mr. Valenti are now claim they are related to anybody who lives in the house?
I have not come to learn that.
Thank you, Mr. Eitelman. Stay right there.
I'm going to keep this. Good. Idleman, yes. Same here, sir.
I'm going to hand out what I sent you marked as exhibit, House Exhibit B. This is the police report. And on the third page is the relevant narrative from the officer in question.
Thank you. Okay.
And without the document in front of me, just peruse the narrative. It's on the third and final page.
Sure.
Just let me know when you finish.
Yes, just this narrative right here you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
Yes, finish.
Do you know when that document is dated?
It appears to be dated 12/5/2023.
In that document, this is the police narrative of the visit, which police officers visit with you. Does he mention at all that any of the students or tenants living in that property mentioned in any way that they were related or unrelated?
He does not.
unrelated ordinance as it stood at the time, does it define the term unrelated?
Whatever, I'm not familiar with the definition of unrelated. I'm there to find the facts of the incident, so I don't know the exact definition of the unrelated myself.
So you don't know what related or unrelated means?
I know what related or unrelated means. I don't think I could recite the exact version that's in the code.
So when you asked if someone was related or unrelated to those tenants, did you define in any way what related meant?
I asked it in a way that I would ask anybody else, and they responded the same. It's a simple question.
Do you remember what your question was?
Are any of you related to anybody else living here?
And you got, how many tenants answered that?
The two that I spoke to that's listed on my report.
Now, did you ask at any point, when you spoke with Mr. Pimentel about this potential NOV and this visit, did you, before I assume that?
Well, eventually, yes. I came back and wrote my findings down in my report.
Okay, and when you spoke with Mr. Pimentel, did you ask or consider whether the Rinaldi's had a pre-existing non-conforming use or by dimension?
I did not. That would be beyond my purvey.
What is the property zone?
I am not 100% sure.
That's all I have. I would ask the board, I've submitted 2 exhibits as appellants A and B. I would ask that you submit them in full. All right, thank you. Can I have 1 moment to speak with my client before I determine if we're going to use call?
Certainly.
That's all I have. I'd like to make a closing when there is an opportunity to, but at this time, we would have no further evidence to submit. At what? At this moment.
Town rests as well. I'll make a few comments. All right, so we have a police report that's been submitted by the appellant. I would say this, the police, they report on crimes. This is a zoning code violation. It's a civil matter. It's probably why it's not in the exhibit, or excuse me, in the police report. So that would be my explanation and reason why it's not in there. So I would submit to the board not to draw an inference from that. Also, you have a direct affidavit from that officer, which is internally consistent and consistent with the statements of Mr. Eidelman. Also, you have Towns 1. Towns 1 says that there's 6 tenants, also consistent with Mr. Eidelman in his testimony that there were 6, and what he heard from 2 of those tenants. Those 2 tenants had no reason to make that up, say we're not related. They told the truth. So what you have here is you have someone who admits there's six tenants in the property in their registration, they filled it out. There's a complaint, there's a noise violation, orange sticker, they have a loud party, police go, investigate. They weren't looking for it. Mr. Eidelman goes with them, and what does he find? He asks a couple of questions. They tell the truth. No, we're not related. It's a violation of the ordinance. I don't think it's too tricky. Whether or not this is a pre-existing legal non-conforming use is not a determination that the building official makes or that the zoning official makes when they go out there. They can't make that determination. That's impossible. Matter of fact, the board doesn't make that determination. The Superior Court makes that determination. So for the purposes of today, I would submit to you that this is a little less complicated than my brother would like you to believe, and that is this. What did the building official and the zoning official learn when they went to the property? They heard from the tenants. They heard from an unbiased third party as to what happened. You have the testimony that I think is reliable from Mr. Eidelman, and you have the affidavit from the sworn affidavit from the police officer, which buttresses that testimony. They violated the ordinance.
Please.
Thank you. This board found via motion on July 26th that a second amended complaint governed and proved complete liability for violation of the four unrelated ordinance last year. The facts that this board found was that prior to the adoption of the four unrelated ordinance and throughout, since then, the Rinaldis have rented to more than four unrelated individuals. This board made that factual finding. It's on the record. That holds true to this day. There is no evidence in the record presented by the town. In fact, the zoning official stated in an answer that he has no knowledge as to any abandonment of that non-conforming use. And for that reason alone, this notice of violation cannot stand, because you cannot violate an ordinance that you have a pre-existing non-conforming use for. Number two, should this board somehow find that that fact cannot apply to this case, the zoning official also said that there is no non-conformance provision in the four unrelated ordinance, and therefore he didn't really consider it in the first place. That violates state law. Rhode Island General Laws, Section 452439A, to be precise, requires that any zoning ordinance have a pre-existing non-conforming use exception, and governs how those non-conforming uses can be limited if they are nuisances, and they have to be determined to be nuisances. Other than that, this board and the town, when adopting it, needed to provide for non-conforming uses, which the building official, or pardon me, the zoning official said this is the non-conformance by use today. Should this board find there can be no non-conformance contrary to Rhode Island law, there still remains no definition of unrelated or related in the ordinance. Now, this board made a determination as to one individual appellant last year as the definition of unrelated. That determination was made in a factual finding, not a factual finding, pardon me, in the actual determination of whether to uphold or to overturn an NOV. It was not made in, with regards to the Rinaldis. And because of that, there's still no definition. And that's why I asked Mr. Edelman whether he had described what related and unrelated meant for the purposes of this ordinance. And even if he asked the tenants if they were related or unrelated, he didn't define the term, which this board and the Rinaldis themselves discussed at length for at least 4 meetings. Furthermore, the four unrelated ordinance creates a specific use. It is intended, does not create a specific use. It is intended to ban. Instead, it changed the definition of household contained in the zoning ordinance's definition section, which is only applicable in specific instances, none of which apply today. Furthermore, and finally, for the record, I will say that we still contend that the four unrelated ordinance is unconstitutional for several reasons. Importantly, in this situation, not only does it not pass rational basis, which means that there's no justification for the law, because there's no logical connection between preventing or welfare in the community and preventing unrelated people from living together. But also in this situation, it is an infringement of the right to contract, because the definition, no matter what this board were to determine, was only adopted at best months after the lease was entered into. I think it's important here to note that non-conforming uses are meant to help homeowners not have to deal and change their properties because an ordinance changes and the use changes. We have that everywhere. And this board made that implicit determination in July in the findings of fact regarding my client. I would ask this board to overturn the NOV on that basis, or the numerous other bases. And I would thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Blaze.
Just one more item, please. My brother made an argument, and for quite a while, that in your previous decision, you made a determination that there was a pre-existing legal nonconforming use based on the second amended complaint. I would submit, from my memory, that was used as an admission that there were more than 4 unrelated there, not that you made a determination that it was a pre-existing legal nonconforming use. So that's my recollection. So we differ on our recollections, but that's what I believe the board did. And my recollection is you did not make a factual determination about whether or not there was a pre-existing legal nonconforming use.
And I would contend if the board did find that it was an admission, it would still be a fact that is admitted to. So that's where I would rest, and I would cite earlier when I read the actual motion. Thank you.
Would you care to weigh in on this?
Sure. I actually agree with Mr. St. In other words, at the prior hearing, this board has no power to determine whether something's a pre-existing non-conforming use. That's only for the Superior Court to determine, and that's one of the reasons why they filed it. One of the counts is a declaratory judgment action to determine whether something is a pre-existing non-conforming use. So my recollection was the complaint was used as an admission, but it certainly was not a declaration that it was a non-conforming use. I do agree with Andrew regarding that there is such a thing as a pre-existing non-conforming use under the law. So certainly, should that be declared by the Superior Court, then the homeowner would be entitled to whatever use was existing prior to the enactment of the zoning ordinance. I won't go into the unrelated. I believe this board's been consistent. The definition is clear. It's been part of our ordinance it's been part of state law for 32 years. No one's said anything. There was 14 code changes last year. That wasn't changed. If it was such a egregious definitional issue, then certainly the speaker or anyone affiliated with the speaker could have certainly added those definitions to the state law, and we would have add those to this law, but no one did do that. I think the definition of unrelated is clear. This board's been consistent with that definition. And any other specific questions? Certainly everyone's made their arguments for the record.
Yes, Mr. Blaze. Thank you, Steve.
I just would like to object on the record that this is taken. I believe that the statements made on the record were veiled insinuations that I will not go further into the record, which I think are inappropriate. I would further note that the advice of the solicitor went further into an analysis, which is this board's purview and not the assistant or the town solicitor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blaze, is your client here tonight?
Yes.
Is he willing to answer some questions for us?
I don't see why not. I would ask that the board not allow cross-examination, as I'm not going to be asking him questions. I would ask that the board not permit cross-examination, as the board is going to be the only people asking questions as I'm not.
Mr. Rinaldi, please raise your right hand and be sworn.
Yes. John Rinaldi, R-A-I-N-A-L-D-I.
Mr. Rinaldi, did you hear the testimony from Mr. Eidelman, the zoning inspector, with respect to the fact that when he visited the property, he asked the tenants if they had a copy of the written lease? And the answer that was provided was no.
I heard that, yes.
Is there a written lease for the current term?
Yes, it's actually posted in the garage.
Okay. And how many individuals are on the lease?
6.
6. And do you know whether or not any of them are related by
I do not know.
blood or marriage?
I do not know.
Okay. So you did not inquire when you were leasing to them?
I did not.
Whether or not any of them were related?
I did not.
Okay. And are all 6 of them currently living there?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Anyone else?
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Rinaldi?
Thank you.
That one?
Mr. Rinaldi, has this been I think your attorney may have brought this up, but I just want to confirm, has this been a property that you have rented out consistently? Do you use it at all for summer personal use? Do you let relatives?
The only time my wife and I stay there is when we're working on the house in between the students in the summer, a couple of weekends, June. We rent it out separately for the summer, and then we rent it out to students. We've done that since my dad and his friends owned that property almost 40 years ago.
And when you rent it out for the summer, I'm assuming it's to families and their
Yes.
friends and relatives and.
Well, we don't know them, they're not friends of ours. but
Right,
yes,
right, right,
It's a
but-
market transaction through a rental agent, yes. Market transaction, yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Rinaldi.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I guess we've had all the testimony we're going to receive on this. I can close this hearing, correct? Yeah. Chair would entertain a motion that we close this hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0. What is the board's pleasure?
Chairman, members of the board, I would move to make
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Keith, could you use the microphone, please?
Is your red light on there?
There we go. Chairman, members of the board, I would move to make the following findings of fact. I'd like to incorporate the testimony and the evidence adduced at the hearing with respect to Mr. Pimentel's testimony and Mr. Eidelman's testimony, as well as incorporate into the findings of fact all of the documents that were submitted by both the town and the appellant. And that would conclude my findings of fact.
Second that?
A motion has been made and properly seconded to enter the findings of fact into the record. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0.
Chairman, members of the board, based upon the testimony adduced during the hearing, as well as the exhibits that were introduced into evidence, I would move to deny the appeal and affirm the notice of violation issued by the town on December 22nd, 2023.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded to uphold the building official. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Police. You good? All right, next item on the agenda is A.L. Brady/Hogan, Plat D, Lot 170-1, 3 Rose Court. Mr. Hogan?
How you doing? I do. Thomas Hogan, Hogan. Ready?
You have the floor.
Okay. Can you put that up, that stuff up? Okay. We own this property here, and we want to demolish it and rebuild it, basically. Same footprint, everything. There's pictures there, and it's non-conforming now because it's on an undersized lot. Back in 2010, the lots were divided and had a major subdivision, and this house was spun off. And now it's in really bad shape. This is a picture of the house the way it looks now. And this is what we'd like to do.
Would you like to enter those into the record, Mr. Hogan? I think.
And
Oh, they're here, all right, we don't.
it was designed to fit exactly the same footprint. We originally were going to refurbish it, but the foundation was deemed inadequate, and so we got to do something with it. So we decided to rebuild it, knock it down, rebuild it. So I guess I'm not a professional at this, so I'm not going to probably say anything's wrong. But it's non-conforming now, so I guess you have to approve the non-conformity to continue. And then there's that deck off the front, that cantilever deck, and that adds a little ground coverage, building coverage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it adds 24 feet and about 6% coverage. It's an open deck, it's no membrane, the water goes through it. And so I'm asking for a variance to allow me to do that. And that's pretty much it.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Keith Kyle had to recuse from this.
Oh, that's right.
So Christine's
I'm
sitting
not saying
on.
anything, I'm just sitting here quietly.
Actually, you shouldn't even be sitting here. Did you,
Move back.
all right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So Christine, you're in on this one, okay? Thank you, Heidi. Let's see what we're looking at here. It's certainly, I went by the house today, it's certainly in,
You want to buy it? In
Yeah.
bad shape, huh?
yeah, tough shape. Something needs to be done with it.
Well, like I said, originally we were thinking of refurbishing. We didn't want to put that much money into it, but came back from the building official and to have the foundation inspected by an engineer, and we did. And basically, it's stone rubble and
Yeah,
sitting on, and so it wasn't worth. So we got to do something with it. And I've tried really hard to stay aesthetically nice, fit the surroundings, fit Narragansett, stay within the same footprint.
well, I'd say you met that with the architecture, it's very,
So,
very pleasing.
like I said, the house itself will be sitting exactly in the same position. It's just,
aesthetically, I think the deck off the front, little deck off the front looks really nice, and with what's going on down in Boone Street in that area, and
Oh, it fits.
I just think it looks really nice, that's all. So-
Definitely.
So, Mr. Hogan, that room behind the deck, are those French doors, or is that a slider?
That's the bedroom behind that.
That's a bedroom,
That'll be a
okay.
bedroom.
Okay, and
There's
that's,
2 bedrooms downstairs, 1 bedroom upstairs.
okay.
It's a 3-bedroom house now. Stay a 3-bedroom.
Thank you.
I'm not sure you got an answer.
No, that's where I was going. I was asking what that room, I was going to ask what the room was, but he read my mind.
Oh, gotcha. Let me ask the question. Are they French doors? Are they passage doors? Are they sliders? What is that?
They're just French doors open in.
It's open up, okay.
That's it.
That's all you-
They're just, rather than a window,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking the question, thank you.
We tried to design it to look, fit Narragansett, fit what's going on in the area, but not increase. The house isn't increase, it's just, it's a look.
I agree with the chairman. It looks fantastic.
It does. I mean, the sticking point is the, do I dare go here?
Not trying to do anything bad, trying to do something nice.
Oh, no, I think it looks great, especially what's there now. It's,
The planning board liked it, they voted it 5-0.
that's amazing, that's amazing. All right, I'll let somebody else. Yes, Ellen?
Jill, is this one of those instances where the deck, if it was on the ground, would qualify for that, what is it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a deck. Yeah. Yeah, no, because.
No, the location of the deck on the first or second floor, it could have still qualified being in the current location.
Like if it was on the ground, like if,
That doesn't matter.
no, I know, I'm just,
If it was on the ground, if it was, no,
okay,
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's, that deck is an open sun deck, and it could qualify for the deck exemption.
So does it?
With other
It
things
could.
being- With all other things being equal.
But in this case, does it
It
qualify?
doesn't.
No. We did the math.
You did.
Based on your math, could it,
I'm
Could
still
you-
confused, I'm still confused.
could it be reconfigured and meet it? Or it's just the math is too tight and it's,
So the structure is non-conforming. It's non-conforming in a couple of different ways. It's non-conforming in its setbacks, and it's non-conforming in its lot coverage. And you can reconstruct with a special permit as long as you don't exacerbate any dimensional non-conformity. So the deck has actually been reduced in size.
Yeah, we reduced.
To eliminate a side yard setback. It's been reduced, I don't recall.
I don't know, it was a couple inches.
Yeah. So the
We
deck.
have a
That's a-
18-inch overhang, so that already
That's a front
was
yard.
included in the ground coverage calculations. So we're only adding 25 feet, like
Sorry,
0.6% to the,
Yes,
to the coverage it came to.
off of Rose Court, correct. So the deck did stick out 0.1 feet, but about 15.8. And Mr. Hogan reduced the
size of the deck to not exacerbate that existing dimensional nonconformity.
All right, so does that deck account for the 0.6% increase? It does.
It is an overage, so by math, Mr. Allman, we looked at the deck exemption, we talked to Mr. Hogan, because he does have an existing open porch area, of which, with his proposed porch, we weren't sure if that was going to be an open porch, in other words, if it was going to be pervious, and if it was, then we could count it as deck and then apply the rule, and we did go through the machinations of that. It is not an open porch, so that, not the deck that you're looking at, the balcony deck, but the one on the lower right-hand corner, a bit further down, right, right there.
That's a covered,
It's got that would have a membrane, because that's where you go into the house. So you'd have water, carrying your groceries in, somebody would walk in and water would come through. So if I eliminated that, everything would have been fine,
If
but
the deck were pervious, if it were allowed water to come through, I believe we could count it, Mr. Pimentel, I believe we can count that as an open sun deck. Qualifies under section 2.2, and then we go, I can't do it, I don't recall off the top of my head, but I believe we then get there.
so what's the design of
it'd
that?
be this here.
Oh, you have it?
It'd be this little deck over here above, where you go into the house.
Is this in the rear of the house that we're talking about now? Or it's on the street side, correct?
It's on the street side, call front. But we talked about if that was, the water went through.
No, I know
You
what.
would have water coming on your head while you're trying to unlock the door to bring your groceries in. Kind of. So really, it's just,
So
the way
you've
this-
got, oh, all right, so you've got
That's not
separate
just-
entries.
yeah.
Is there a way to make part of it pervious and still cover the entry?
I think you could probably do anything you wanted to do. If you really wanted
No, you know what I'm saying,
Well,
though. You're worried about, I understand that, the water coming down on somebody's head, but if it looks like part of that deck is not over the entry.
Some things make sense, some things don't, that's all.
Yeah.
That's okay. I can't hear anybody talking.
We'll see the problem is you've got. So the cantilever deck is proposed to allow rainwater through it,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And then the other one covers the entry.
Would that idea matter, Jill? So I would think you could put a membrane over the entry portion of that stairway and have the drainage run so that it's not dripping on anybody's head. Would that change the need for relief?
You could, I don't know.
That's kind of.
It's a covered porch, somebody, you want to sit out there, I mean, it's.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I'm
it.
just asking for it
We're a bit
because I think it
constrained.
makes sense, that's all.
I think it makes sense, too. We're just a bit
I just
constrained
think it
with
makes sense, I'm not trying
our
to.
ordinance.
Yeah.
That's the
I
problem.
know I know.
Wayne, I have a
It's a-
question.
Let me tell you, it was very difficult, I mean, that lot's, it is a small lot.
Yeah.
But it's either this or that, you know, it's
Yeah.
kind
No, it's a huge, there's no doubt it's a huge improvement.
of,
And I think it looks very nice in the design.
Wayne, is there a way to, if that flat roofed area was put into a gutter system that dropped underneath
Can I ask a question?
the entrance, would you consider that?
You're talking about the right-hand deck?
The left, if you're looking at the left hand,
All right. Yep.
you've got a flat roof area, see, off the,
Yep.
if there were a gutter system that was collected that water that came specifically off that roof and dumped it underneath
To a rain garden or whatever.
You could put a
Well,
Caltech
into
chamber,
the deck,
you could put one of
into
those
the-
Caltech chambers in, they're like
No,
igloos.
well, I'm just, to get by the lot coverage. If you actually dumped it, if the bottom portion was open, you could, even if you had, if the bottom portion was an open deck, although it's covered, and you're collecting the rainwater from above and releasing it down there.
I mean, it's an option. I mean, it's very unique, the way, we're trying to find a way around this, I know.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be considered part of that open deck. Yeah.
I mean, it's, as presented, it's beautiful, so.
Yeah.
It works in the neighborhood, it's, everything about it is good. Well, there's a better look at it right there.
Steve, I had a quick question. Does this, under the new regulations where use variances can be given in conjunction with dimensional, is that what this one is falling under? Would this fall under that?
Well, no. See, no.
All right.
No.
I know my brother objected to my commentary last hearing, but the way they wrote, I think they tried to get it, they tried to eliminate the new.
The use, yep.
But they didn't. They just said that an applicant shall be able to present both the dimensional variance and a special use permit before the town. They should have said that, and each application shall be heard based upon its own criteria. They didn't, they left out the second half of the sentence, which keeps Newton, in my opinion, in
In
effect.
force.
I don't know why they didn't. If they would have added that second part, then we could hear the special use permit based upon the special use permit and the dimensions based upon the dimensions, but they didn't do that.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, wait, the lot coverage is what it is, and if it moves around, as long as it doesn't change. So Mr. Hogan has an 18-inch overhang, which counts toward his lot coverage. If that moved around, eliminated on some sides,
Or bring it into 12 inches and then it wouldn't even count, because you're allowed up to 12 without counting towards the,
that wouldn't count toward your setback, it might still count toward your lot coverage, but 12 all around the building.
I mean, typically for the lot coverage, I mean, we look at it for the footprint of the building, not the footprint of the roof. With the exception that once you go beyond 12 inches, then it would count that excess.
Do you count the excess, or do you count the 12 plus
Just
the
the,
excess?
just the excess.
12 is a given.
Yes, 12 is allowed.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to approve it.
With a, I mean, could I suggest to approve it with a 12-inch overhang?
Well, I was gonna say, as long as there's no increase in the lot coverage, and find a place that, find 0.6%, be it in the overhangs,
We could look at that.
or maybe even that, you might have to shrink that deck just a little bit.
We could certainly look at that and see how those numbers work out.
Say that again?
We could look at reducing the amount of the overhang, which currently, that was calculated as part of your lot coverage.
Probably take an inch off it all the way around, it would do it times 10. You
Well,
know,
I mean,
we're talking, we are
you have to
talking,
you have to do the math.
yeah, I
to
mean,
get
I'd
to
have to need somebody to do it, but
The problem is.
if you took an inch off the overhang all the way around the house,
Well, if you took
it would be less.
6 inches off the,
6 inches B plus, I can make the house bigger.
Jill, do you remember if the lot coverage was calculated based upon the extent of the roof overhangs?
We did.
So I think we need to discuss that, because that's not the way that I would do it.
We had originally done it without the overhang, and
it
Mr.
before.
Hogan and I, yeah, we talked about it. And you and I talked offline as well.
Yeah, was it,
We can go back to the conversation offline, sure.
do you think if we revisit that, that would take him out of that requirement?
No, I think the roof overhang at 18 inches actually decreases the amount of lot coverage overage he has, because it exposes more of the deck, of which we're not counting right now, because 18 inches of that deck is already covered.
That's right, we took that off.
Yes, we did. We took 18 inches of that deck off because it was already covered.
So the deck is 2 foot by 11 foot.
But I'm just saying the excess of the 12, the 8 inches all the way around, or the 18 inches that was calculated into that.
It was already calculated.
It was calculated, yes, so the revised calculations.
All right, I'd probably want to see the numbers just to make sure before we continue to.
I mean, I'm comfortable. I mean, the problem is we can't go over that, what's there. It triggers a use variance.
Yeah.
And there's
So,
no getting
Mr.
around
Chairman, can you approve it without an overage, and then we can work it out
Well,
offline?
that's what I'm saying, yes.
Yeah.
Go, that way the project can move forward.
And we can confirm those numbers, and if it
Right.
works out, then it works out.
And you're just
Yeah.
gonna have, it's gonna have to be, Mr. Hogan will have to find that 0.6% somewhere.
I think that's a good solution.
Right?
That's been done before.
I mean, everything else, it meets everything else,
Yes.
you know? So-
Yeah, that's really the only sticking point, I think, that we have, unfortunately, under the ordinance, right? I mean, it's,
Well, you can't, I mean, once you trigger the use variance.
yeah.
Do exceptions ever get made? Like, I'm just asking.
What's that?
People come to zoning all the time. Do exceptions ever get made? Like they built the church, it was 60 feet tall.
The
right up
problem,
the street from me and things like that, so we're talking such
Yeah,
a small
well-
amount, I mean, and we're adding so much value, I think, to the community.
oh, no, I think you're adding value to the community,
So
absolutely.
I'm
I
just,
think the
so
design
I'm
is
asking,
beautiful.
you know, for a little, just, you know, but we're looking for that much, you
Yeah.
know, just to make it nicer.
The issue that we have, just so you're clear on it, is that the ordinance requires us to find, in order to grant you the relief that you came in requesting, that if we don't give it to you, there is no beneficial use to the property. Right? So it would be very difficult for the board to find that there's no beneficial use to the property if we didn't give you that front.
Well, it's, and on top of that, the problem is that it specifically said, Jill's got the reconstructed building does not result in an increase in the existing degree of any dimensional nonconformity. that's hard and fast. What it does, it's a minuscule amount that you're increasing the lot coverage, but it triggers that, it goes to a use variance. And the use variance is impossible to prove on, almost, especially in this circumstance. So it's a minuscule amount. I think you can find it in a little bit of a redesign. If you've got the 18-inch overhangs, cut them back, you know. I think, I'd love to give it just the way it is, but.
I'd like it too. Put a lot of time into this already, you know?
But it's, a use variance it's an impossibility on this piece of property.
Yeah, I think if you give us the
But I think you
authority
could
to approve it based upon us making some modifications with the roof overhang, and if we need to scale back the front, the roof, then, or that deck, then we'll instruct Mr. Hogan and work with him on what
Right.
the options are, so we stay within it without triggering the use variance.
And you'll still achieve what you,
Yeah.
you'll still achieve what you want.
Hope so.
We just need to confirm some of those numbers,
Okay.
so we'll
I'm
work with
fine
you,
with it.
Tom, absolutely.
Everybody's been really helpful. I mean, they know I'm trying to do something nice.
Oh, absolutely, yep, no, we all agree.
I think my neighbors would, I'm surprised none of them are here.
All right.
No one opposed, so. Planning liked it. Come on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hogan.
Okay.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone who is opposed that would like to speak? That's good. All right. Chair will entertain a motion that we close this public hearing.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Ah, a motion has been made and properly seconded. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, with respect to project,
Can I get a vote? There was no vote taken.
We just took a vote, didn't we?
Motion made, vote seconded, but no vote taken.
Oh, we didn't take a vote, oh, all right. All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing?
aye.
Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, with respect to project summary dated February 26, 2024, A.L. Brady LLC, Tax Assessor's Plat D, Lot 170-1, I'd like to make a motion to approve the findings of, the following findings of fact. Specifically, facts A through H in the project summary. And would like to incorporate the information submitted as part of the application and the testimony of the applicant, Thomas Hogan, who spoke tonight. I'll note that there was quite a bit of discussion about the lot coverage overage as part of the testimony. Would also like to note that the planning board at a meeting on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, found the application to be complete, and they, by a vote, found the application to be complete, and also found the application to be in conformance with the land use component of the comprehensive plan of Narragansett, with a vote of 5-0. And the planning board recommended the application to the zoning board of review for approval with conditions 2 through 6, striking condition 1 and revising a condition to remove the word revised. And that was with a vote of 5-0. that completes my findings of fact.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded to enter the findings of fact into the record. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, with respect to project summary A.L. Brady LLC, Tax Assessor's Plat D Lot 170-1, I'd like to make a motion to grant the relief requested, subject to conditions 2 through 6 of the project summary, with the additional condition that there'll be no increase in lot coverage from the current condition of the property.
You want to just say that lot coverage to remain at 31.1%?
Specifically, that lot coverage will remain at 31.7%. 31.1%, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, since we're talking, since Wayne and I will be talking, that the lot coverage shall remain as currently existing.
Okay, which is, yes, right, as currently.
As currently exists.
Okay.
And Mr. Allman, if I may ask that, as part of your conditions, to ask for a revised site plan, if necessary, which is.
And is that
No,
an additional
you would-
condition?
No, you would need to put that in.
Okay, so condition, so 5 would be that, I'm sorry, condition 7 would be that there shall be no additional, there shall be no increase in lot coverage. And condition 8 shall be that there shall be a revised site plan submitted if necessary.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded to grant relief with conditions. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0. Good luck, Mr. Hogan. Okay, we have one more. Are you good? Good, okay. All right, final is Gregory, Plat M, Lot 167-154-74 Shore Road.
Yes. Wonderful.
Yes. Otto Gregory, Gregory. Otto, O-T-T-O.
Cody Ethier, E-T-H-I-E-R. Cody, C-O-D-I. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever it
Good
is
evening.
now.
It's late in the evening.
It is, yeah, almost morning, right? So we are here to request a variance, not a town zoning dimensional variance, but a coastal overlay variance for a new rear deck. You can see the existing rear deck is 7 by the width of the house, which is about 25.8 feet. We are requesting the same width, but to actually extend that to a 14-foot deck.
And in the project summary, there's reference to a side yard deck that's being demolished, and a smaller side yard deck being constructed as well?
That is
That's the
correct.
part of your application?
That is correct. We were more than fine on our lot coverage, so it's not so much a consideration, but we are doing that.
At one point, there were sliders on that side of the house, and the previous owner, we took down the sliders, and there's no reason to have a deck there.
Okay. Thanks for And have you read the conditions that are in the project summary, 1 through 6?
Yes.
Any issue with any of those conditions?
Nope, so we'll be going through CRMC, of course, because of the location of the project, and then through the whole, building permit. We, as far as erosion control, will be submitting that with our building permit. We try to be as minimally invasive to these sites as possible, and just for reference, I work with the builder for the project that has been contracted to build this deck, so that's where I fit into this. So no, we have no issues with any of those conditions.
Breakwater Village has reviewed and approved?
They have.
The ARC for Breakwater, the ARC committee has approved.
Yes.
Any further questions?
I'm looking.
We tried to save the simple one for last for you guys.
Thanks for being patient.
No, thank you. Thanks for not pushing it to next month or anything like that.
Anyone? Everyone? What are you digging for over there? Gold?
Look. Wow.
Being very thorough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chris is getting nervous. I think we all know, pretty simple project, so, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor? Shouldn't have asked. Yeah, I saw that.
I do. David Ferrucci, Ferrucci. Yep. I'm just here to support the project. I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrucci. Now, that's how people should testify. At 10:15 at night. Anyone opposed? Okay. Chair would entertain a motion that we close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, we have before us, he's not biting. We have before us a project summary dated February 26, 2024. Gregory Tax Assessors Plat M167, Lot 154, location 74 Shore Road. This project is located in Breakwater Village, so we have different requirements. The applicant is looking to demolish a side yard deck, 15 by 8 side yard deck, 15.8 by 3.3 side yard deck with stairs, and a 7 by 24.8 rear yard deck with stairs, and construct a 3 by 3 side yard deck with stairs, and a 14 by 24.8 rear yard deck with stairs. Proposed building lot coverage does not change. It stays at 20.2%. The relief requested is from Section 4.4 Coastal Resources Overlay District for 164 variance in special use permit. It just says no findings of fact A through F have been identified by staff. I say? That's H. Did I say F? Yeah. Okay. A through H. We heard very brief testimony from Otto and Cody Gregory, who explained the project, as simple as it may be. And we had one proponent, David Ferrucci, who supports the project. Planning Board has provided a recommendation for approval, and the motion passed 3-2. And that will conclude my findings of fact.
Second that.
A motion has been made and properly seconded to enter the findings of fact into the record. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the same project summary, Gregory Tax Assessors Plat M 167, Lot 154, dated February 26th, 74 Shore Road. The applicant is looking for relief from Section 4.4 of the Coastal Resources Overlay District for 164-foot variance and special use permit. My motion is to grant the relief requested with conditions 1 through 6. And just to read the required amendment from March 6, 2002 zoning board decision, that all previous conditions associated with approval will continue to remain in effect. My motion is to grant the relief requested.
Second that motion.
A motion has been made and properly seconded to grant the relief requested. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, that motion carries 5-0. Good luck. Thank you. Okay. Now let's go back to the beginning. All right, we've got administrative matters. Has everyone looked at the annual report? Has everyone had a chance to peruse it?
Yep.
And what's the board's pleasure in regards to the annual report? Love it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept and place on the annual report and place it on file.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, that motion carries, I'm going to say 7-0. Okay. Election of officers. Chair would entertain a motion to,
I'd like to move to appoint James Manning reappoint James Manning as our chairman.
you can handle this. I'm sitting this one out. No, you handle this.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second?
Yes.
We do? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Condolences.
You're going to miss me when I'm gone. All right. Next would be vice chair.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Tony Brunetti as vice chair.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Anthony, you got the job again. All
Make a
right.
good team.
And now for secretary. Who's going to draw the short straw?
Terrible handwriting.
Mr. Chairman, I move. Quick.
I move to appoint, I move that Ellen be the secretary.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ellen, congratulations.
Congratulations, Alan.
Congratulations.
You get a free iPad though from the town of Narragansett.
You get an attaboy. All right, approval of the minutes from the December 14th. Can we do these in one fell swoop? Okay.
Please.
December 14, 2023, January 18, 2024, February 8th, 2024, February 22nd, 2024, March 7th, 2024. What is the board's pleasure? Okay.
I didn't hear a thing.
Ellen,
Ellen, Christina, okay.
Christine, yeah, it was kind of a weak second, but it was. I know she'd be louder than that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Yep. That motion carries, 7-0. All right. Jill, anything?
I gave you last month a revised template, but we had a full house here, so I will email it to everyone. I know I have a new template for our new 2024 standards, so I will email that out to everyone, and then maybe in April, so you might have a shorter meeting, we can talk about it and see if we
Okay.
can take the word draft off of it.
it's only been 2 years,
It's only been,
more than 2, huh?
We'll try to act a
7
little
years.
bit, we'll try to act a little quicker than we did the last time, Joe.
that's it.
That's
Are all the
it?
applications now that are coming before us under the
No,
new law?
you're still in the old.
Still
you're
some
in the
old?
Yep, you might have, next month might be the old. No, probably May, right? There might be one new one in May and a few old ones.
That's fine.
Okay.
Then they'll start to sprinkle through. Not all of them? Yeah. There's a lot of, yeah, there's 7 or 8 applications right now. Just haven't gotten through.
All right, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.